All right, here we go, everybody. Here we go. This is, you're watching the real stream now, right? If you're on YouTube, you might have had to wait a little bit. I hope you got my message. I left it in chat. Something got changed on me at the last minute, right? Twitch updated their policy on simulcasting, on sponsorships, on so many things. And now, like, the totality of Twitter is raining down, you know, anger on Twitch, right? I haven't made a post on that. All I've got right now is my, wait, let me switch. What am I trying to do? Put this in here, and then I want to be able to see the YouTube chat, and we got to get it, make sure that it's up and running, right? You see Twitch chat right now. That is like happened. That is already over, right? Welcome back. Thank you. Welcome everybody, right? So if you're missing, like, let me just describe what happened, all right? Twitch used to allow streamers like me to simulcast. Now, upon further review, technically in the affiliate contract, we weren't supposed to be doing that, right? I was under the impression that we were allowed to. I was under the impression that they had, here, let me change, like, turn this down. Okay, wait, no, we're supposed to do the local forecast thing, right? We got the forecast music, we got the weather music. I don't know, does it feel like weather music or does it feel like elevator music? Here we go. Ah, relaxing, cooling down, like summer type music. So yeah, so Twitch pulled something on us this morning, right? Right as I was getting ready for stream, right as I was preparing everything, Twitch sent an update on their terms of service. And as you see, like, there's no throne there. I'm not as sure if this, like, little logo right here, see this logo? That's my throne. You can you know, if you want to help the stream be better, like, for instance, this mic right here is a USB mic. It could sound so much better if it was an XLR mic. It could sound so much better if it was plugged into an interface, right? You can help me achieve that on Wish. You could actually contribute towards the improvement. Like, think of it almost like as a browser game, right? Of, like, you know, you're gonna improve the different parts of, like, what is it, like Clash of Kingdoms? This is kind of like the idea. Like, right, if you want to improve the armory, you're like, I think that armory needs to be upgraded. Well, you can pay for the armory. If you want to, if you think the, you know, the barracks need to be improved, right? It's kind of like that, right? So you can give money in a way where you're giving it towards material improvement in the quality of the stream, right? Of the, you know, sound of my voice. Maybe eventually I'll put a camera up there. Cameras are really expensive. I haven't put that up. On-screen chat is not right. I'm seeing that now. I'm seeing that now. Let's see, how do we help that? I think with this. Yeah, on-screen chat is still showing Twitch, right? So embed that, and then yeah, so this is gonna be a really weird stream today because I'm only on YouTube, right? And I don't know, like, in a roundabout way, I'm explaining the reason why Twitch, you know, Twitch has changed their rules to the detriment of streamers on that service. I'm a little bit upset with them about that, right? I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now. And I understand that whatever emotions I show you on stream, they're gonna be, like, magnified in you, because that's how audiences work, right? So I'm kind of muting, you know, my expression. You're not gonna see me cry. You're not gonna see me, you know, do any of that classic no comment shit. I'm probably the realest streamer on Twitch, honestly, in terms of like showing my emotions and letting you know where I am at and how I feel. I just don't have a lot of filters when it comes to that, right? But yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it muted because I don't want people to get too worried about me, right? This is a major change. This is scary stuff. I'm not sure where we're going. I was so close, like, right? As we were like approaching like 200 rolling subs on Twitch, I was so close to, you know, like, by close, I mean like halfway there to financial viability, like as a streamer, like long term, being able to do this, being able to lock this in, being able to say, I will be here for you no matter what, right? I will be here for you no matter what, but like it's contingent on being able to support myself, right? And I was starting to get there, right? And things were starting to come together. Twitch has kind of pulled the rug out from under me, and I don't know where we're going from there, right? So if you want to support me, I would point people towards the Patreon at this point. I'm thinking that given the kind of relative instability of the different platforms that I'm on, Patreon is probably the best place. And I've got big plans for Patreon in terms of, you know, giving you value there that you're not going to get elsewhere, creating like a little core of the community within the Patreon platform, and you know, just having a whole new world of content available to you there on Patreon. Right now, we've just uploaded the Ferociously Steph. I'm sorry, I think she goes by Steph now. I think she's called Steph, right? Steph, who I talked to a while ago, we put up the Bird Brains interview with Steph. Steph is somebody who's been through a lot of the same kind of, you know, troubles that I have in terms of transphobia, experiencing, you know, transphobic attention on Twitch as a platform and not getting the support. Yeah, there's another reason. There's another bad thing about Twitch, right? They name Steph their ambassador, right? Make her part of the safety program. And then when it comes to people attacking Steph, they don't support her at all. They throw Steph, you know, to the wolves, right? They were not there for Steph. There's another reason. Do recommend the Patreon, yeah, and it's gonna be getting even better. I also need input from you as far as like the kind of things that you'd like to see, that you'd like to get on Patreon, because there's a lot more that I could be doing for you. I just don't know exactly where to do it, and having so much focus all over the place, Twitch, YouTube, you know, TikTok, like Twitter, like so many different places, has been a little bit difficult for me. And so like I'm thinking that Patreon is gonna have to become that's like the only reliable platform that I know right now. Like, right, YouTube can ban you for ridiculous reasons, they can demonetize you for ridiculous reasons. Twitch is struggling. Twitch is having trouble with their own financial viability, and they keep on seeing the place to grab that from, the place to take that from, as being their creators, right? As cutting our pay, you know, like trying to force us into like partnerships with them, trying to take away like different routes of monetization that we use, etc. Right? And so like I've seen enough. I've seen enough of that. I don't want to know where that train goes. Is this a middle finger emote? You know what? It looks like it, but sometimes people give me that and I don't think they're flipping me off, Natalie Marie. I don't know what that emote is. Anybody know? YouTube, get your game together, because right now you got a big opportunity to take over the entirety of what was Twitch, because things are falling apart over there. Things are absolutely falling apart. And like, look, I started on Twitch. I have so many memories over there. There's a lot about Twitch that I really appreciate. There's a lot about Twitch that I don't appreciate, right? But to bring me over here, to have me doing a YouTube only stream, like that takes a lot. But yeah, we've got a lot to cover today. As you can see here, right, this is a little, what you're seeing in the upper left-hand corner here is a little animation put together by Oxfam. I don't know that much about Oxfam, right? I know that they're a charity that operates out of the UK, and I know that they've been under fire before for basically acknowledging that not all birthing people identify as mothers, right? They had some guidance for their charitable activities where they were telling their employees, hey, remember, instead of just defaulting to mothers when we're talking about birthing people, maybe remember that, like, you know, like, not all birthing people, you know, like identify that way, right? Not all people who give birth, right? You know, trans guys give birth, non-binary people give birth. There's a lot of people that give birth that don't necessarily want to be called mothers, right? So it's just a simple little thing, right? Just a little, you know, the more you know, right? You know, rainbow, right? That's super simple, but right, this was a spicy take over there on TERF Island, right? Now I've heard some various things about like Oxfam and their history. I am not here to like be like Oxfam good, right? And especially after what happened, right? Because this is a simple little animation. Let me show you here. Let me show you what we got going. In fact, no, not that one. Sorry, I'm like talking to my there we go. Talking to my OBS. That I'm sure that helps a lot. Okay, here we go. This is what I'm talking about, right? So yeah, they put together this little Pride Month animation, and I'm going to show it to you right now.
How are you marking Pride Month this year? While LGBTQIA plus people around the world are deprived of basic safety, not protected by laws, preyed on by hate groups online and offline, discriminated against at work, deprived of opportunities, and pushed to the margins. But pride can be found, etched deeply in the hand of a friend, the hug of a chosen family member, or the safe spaces of a kind community. This Pride Month, we take pride in those who protect and champion safety for LGBTQIA plus people. We all must stand together with queer folks, online, at work, in schools, in sport, through laws, everywhere. We call to protect the pride. Are you with us?
Okay. So simple little animation. Did anybody notice the offensive part, right? There was something offensive there, all right? Has anybody seen what it is? Oxfam are big here, present in most high streets. Surely Twitch makes good money, subs, bits, loads of ads. Twitch is making bad business decisions, right? That are costing them market share, that are costing them money, and their recourse has been to take it out on like streamers, right? And to really to push us to the brink. And like at this point, I was like, all right, I've been pushed enough, right? We're gonna take this to YouTube. If you're gonna play like this, you know, if you're gonna make me uncertain, am I gonna get banned for simulcasting? I don't want to get banned on Twitch, you know, but if you're going to make it impossible for me to use both platforms, which I need, right, because Twitch doesn't have any discoverability, then I'm going to have to do something else. And what we're going to do right now is use Twitch to get people in my community off of Twitch and onto YouTube. That's what my move is right now, right? Because YouTube is a more secure platform than Twitch. Patreon probably even like a step more secure than that, but I also realize that not everybody can afford to give. So you know, I want to do, you know, and also have a Patreon doesn't have that discoverability, right? So right now it's seeming like YouTube is the place to be. We will see what's going on, but yeah. What's the juxtaposition? Anybody else notice that? There was something offensive in there. Let's watch it one more time and see if you can pick up the offensive.
Marking Pride Month
I'll pause
this year.
it where the...
While LGBTQIA plus people around the world are deprived of basic safety, not protected by laws, preyed on by hate groups online and offline.
Do you see it? Do you see what was offensive? What was ageist and misogynistic? And anti-feminist? Do you see it? They also seem to be even more strictly enforcing DMCA. Thank you, Johnny Void. I didn't know that. I actually did not know that. Yeah, but okay, so do you get what's offensive about this? The horrible thing that Oxfam did. That's JK Rowling and TERFs are big mad, correct. That's right. JK Rowling, and they're saying that this is an ageist, misogynistic depiction of JK Rowling. Right? She's got the red eyes, you know, because she's mad, and this picture is like depicting transphobes, right? hate groups, preyed upon by hate groups, online and offline, right? That's what that is, right? Now, they didn't announce this as J.K. Rowling. Let me see if I can find a random small streamer chick on here. She had a good post. Oh, by the way, if you're not following her already, I've heard she's pretty cool. There she is. Random small streamer chick has got the no wait. Oh my god, 24 likes already. Hey, if you're not liking this already, let me it looks like you're late to the party or something, right? Because people are actually liking this post. Amazing, right? And we're bringing more people in from Twitter. That's the name of the game right now, right? Is to funnel everybody from Twitch and from Twitter onto YouTube, right? I've got various platforms, but like, what platform am I going to concentrate on right now? When Twitch is acting like this, it's going to be YouTube, right? And there's reasons for that, and there's a lot more that I could do on YouTube than I'm doing if I didn't have to worry about Twitch. So, try me, Twitch, try me. I will absolutely adapt to your attempt to make it impossible for me to make a living on your platform by switching platforms, right? So yeah, that's what people are mad about, is that this looks like J.K. Rowling, and you can't draw J.K. Rowling like that because apparently J.K. Rowling did nothing wrong, and it's mean to call people a TERF. I guess TERF is like a hateful term. Oh my god, look at this! I personally find your personality as grating as 100 grit sandpaper. I have not tried 100 grit sandpaper. Dr. Jessica Michelle Smith Hernandez, PhD, and your 58 followers. I have not got. Okay, maybe I shouldn't direct hate. What chat? You see what I'm saying? Like, you more often than what? What? Oh my god, chat. What? I thought you were going to be a TERF. Oh my god. Okay, maybe this is not a TERF. Look, leave this person alone. They're allowed to not like my personality. 100 grit sandpaper. I don't know if that's good or bad. Dr. Jessica Michelle Smith Hernandez, if you're out there, yeah, because apparently you're watching me enough to find my personality one way or the other. Let me know what 100 grit sandpaper is like. Is it like the really smooth sandpaper that you could basically wrap around some, feathers and you can use it as a pillow? Is that kind of sandpaper? Because I feel like that's the kind of sandpaper I would be. Like, right after you've gotten something really, really smooth, if you want to make it a little bit smoother, you use a 100 grit sandpaper, the No Comment Chick brand of sandpaper. More often, what kind of weird backhanded compliment is this? Anyway, like I said, don't direct hate towards anybody, all right? People are allowed to not like my personality. That's totally fine. Just as long as you like the stream, just as long as you hit like on the YouTube stream to bring more people in here so they can give their opinions and tell exactly what grit of sandpaper my personality is on any given day. I don't know what that's about, but yeah. So that is No Comment Chicks. Sorry, random small streamer chick. Ha ha ha. Let's see. She had one other. More often than not, you're right. What the hell? That's such a weird compliment. I don't know what to make of that. Okay. So, oh yeah. So here we go. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, right? So maybe this helps a little bit, right? Does this look like J.K. Rowling? Like, I guess so, right? 100 is very rough stuff. Well, okay, people are allowed to not like me. Look, I'm not gonna yell at people for not, like, you know what I mean? Whatever. It is what it is. What grit do you find me? 100 to 150 is medium grit. Oh wait, so it's not really that, like, wait, is lower grit like higher roughness, or is lower grit like lower roughness? I don't even know how the grit works. I'm not in woodworking, I guess. The higher the number, the smooth. Okay. Like I said, people are allowed to not like me. That's okay. right? I got bigger problems to worry about than what Dr. Jessica thinks about. 120 is super finishing smooth. Well, maybe I could work up. Maybe I should just like ask Dr. Jessica to keep on giving me that feedback, keep on letting me know what kind of sandpaper my personality is like, right? And maybe I can get less grading to Dr. Jessica over time, because like she said, I'm more often than not, my takes are good. My takes are are strong, right? Anyway. But yeah, do you think this looks like JK Rowling? I mean, I guess. But like what would they want drawn differently, right? Like it I don't see it as being like, other than the red eyes, cuz yeah, I mean like the difference I see here is, here she's smiling. You know, she's given one of these. I'm sure it's a very real smile, right? And here she's got like red eyes because the trans people are making her mad, right? They're invading the women's spaces. They're stealing our lesbians. I don't know what you know what exactly J.K. Rowling wants with lesbians, but you know, I'll take your word for it that you're upset that the transes are stealing lesbians. They're doing all kinds of bad things, and so she's mad. And that's what's making her eyes red. Okay, so that's the only part of this picture that I could say is really a caricature. The rest of it is just like, I don't know. I mean, look, like, I don't want to be Luxist or ableist or anything else, but I'll just say that I have had a lot of more discordant portrayals of myself, right? Like I've had people draw me, take pictures of me, you know, portray me in a less flattering way than this. So for a group that you're attacking to portray you like this, JK, I don't think you're doing that bad, right? I don't think it's that much of a, like, I don't think they're really, do people think are they having a go at her looks? Are they having a go at her age? Are they having a go at anything other than the fact that she's like really angry at trans people irrationally? You know, so, right? Blaming problems that maybe, and frustrations that maybe would be more appropriately addressed at their source on a marginalized group, right? That's all I'm seeing there. But yeah, so like I was asking, I mean, random small streamer chick was asking if maybe they could add Graham Linehan in there, right? If you really want to draw like, you know, TERFs and haters of trans people, you got to get Glinner in there, right? I don't see that they have Glinner. And look, somebody asked and answered. There it is. There's Glinner. There is Glinner. So yeah, let me take a look at a few other things here. That's random small streamer check. She's wonderful. If you haven't checked her out on Twitter, I highly recommend her. Yo, Dr. Jessica, look, I cannot be anything other than entertained, right? I literally can't get mad at Dr. Jessica for that. I'm not saying that I understand you. I don't think that I'm like, I don't know. What does that mean anyway for a personality to be like Sandpaper? Does that mean that I'm mean? Does she think I'm gruff and rough and like not very full of fluff? Should I be like nicer, more pleasant? I don't know. Maybe she's a Dylan Burns fan. Who knows? I'm not gonna go deep dive into like a 58 follower Twitter account. So yeah. And like I said, don't anybody give her, you know, no. I don't want her to get any hate from my community because I know you're not hateful people. So let's take a look at this. All right, we are updating. So this is Oxfam International, right? So that video that I showed you, I need to be more of a pick me. I don't know. Maybe we could ask. Maybe I could. Okay, look. If you want to ask Dr. Jessica on that thread what she means, feel free. But just be nice, be kind. don't have the personality of 100 grit sandpaper like me. Like, right? See if at least maybe Dr. Jessica can realize that maybe even if I'm too abrasive, she's saying I'm abrasive. She's saying I'm abrasive. I don't see how you get abrasive out of me, but like, I would love to know what she means. So, right. So if you want to ask her what she means, that's fine. Just don't don't make her, uncomfortable, or, don't try to make her have a bad day. Right. Even if she is trying to make me have a bad day, which I don't even know, because like it's like a compliment and it's an insult, and it's like maybe that's just how Dr. Jessica is. Maybe she's just like super honest. She gives her opinion, and I appreciate that. What's up? Dr. Jessica hates me too. Why? Why does anybody hate us, Polly? Polly, you're sweet. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. I don't see how anybody hates Polly. And I also don't see how anybody hates me, right? Like, everything about Polly's stream is just kind of cozy. I don't see how people hate her. So what is it with JK Rowling? Why does it matter if it isn't? Is the Queen of Chimney Sweeps so far above us mortals, she's beyond parody? That's what TERF Island seems to think, right? I'm finding out that TERF Island is a very different place than even the one that I live in. And the United States is not great for trans people, like, right? Granted, United States has got some problems when it comes to how trans people are treated here, right? But TERF Island's even worse. There's like a consensus that, okay, so first of all, saying TERF is naughty. It's rude. It is misogynistic. Yeah. I don't know. They have a lot more, like, there's no problem with being a TERF on TERF Island. If you're a TERF on TERF Island, smooth sailing. Right? If you're a TERF in the US, you're generally like a TERF in private. Just like, like, it's just like being a private dick, right? You're not a dick in public, you're a dick in private, right? You're on the internet and you're like typing in dickish things, but you're not a dick to people on the street. That's what like a TERF is in the US. Usually they will kind of mute their TERFness in public, and that goes to show that it's like not a cool thing to hate trans people in the US, largely speaking, right? Obviously in certain quarters it's a little different. Most of the hate against Polly can be honestly boiled down to sour grapes. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some sour grapes in there. It's like a slurry. You can boil it down into a slurry. That slurry is sour. That slurry is gritty. This is like some kind of cleanse. Like, that's what it is, Polly. They want to cleanse. They want to purify their Twitch poll and make sure it doesn't have any elements of like intersectional leftism in it, right? And so they're taking this, they're boiling it down to this gritty substance that they're gonna mix into their smoothie to try to poop all the intersectional leftism out of their digestive system somehow. Yeah, they think it's a slur. Anyway, so yeah, this is Oxfam International here. We're on their post. This is their post, official statement. Now, so what does Oxfam have to say about this, right? Let's take a look. Oxfam believes that all people should be able to make decisions which affect their lives, enjoy their rights, and live life free of discrimination and violence, including people from the LGBTQIA+ communities. In an effort to make an important point about the real. Oh my God! Thank you, Buffy Geek. Thank you, everybody who's membering up today. Right, like I said, I'm very nervous about my ability to continue producing content just because of what's going on with Twitch and how difficult they're making it for us right now. So everybody that joins in a membership or super chats or wants to buy one of those super stickers or anything like that, that's gonna really make me like a lot more I'm still trying to calm down from what Twitch hit us with this morning. Polly, are you aware of what Twitch is doing to us? Libra Move, she's probably just a troll who gets off on being an asshole. Quite possibly, yeah. Twitch has done us dirty, Polly. If you haven't read your email already, check that out, right? Because they've updated the terms of services, and it shouldn't affect what you're doing too much, since I don't think that you were in some of the sussy practices that I was doing, right? But it does have to do with sponsorships, right? They have made some policy changes when it comes to sponsorships, and a lot of people are not happy about it, right? It's making our lives harder financially, right? And that's the last thing, as any Twitch streamer can tell you, that's the last thing that we need. So yeah, where were we here? So we want people to enjoy the rights to live their life free of discrimination and violence, including people in the LGBTQIA plus communities, in an effort to make an important point about the real harm caused by transphobia. We made a mistake. We made a mistake. We have therefore edited the video to remove the term TERF. Okay. And are sorry for the offense it caused. Oh my God. So not a problem. There's no issue with trans exclusionary radical feminism, right? There's a problem with calling people trans exclusionary radical feminists, right? It's not a slam. It's not a comment on people's looks, a comment on people's age, anything they want to, make it out to be. It is literally a term of you hate trans people, right? And it comes from people hating trans people, right? You don't get called a TERF because of some kind of indelible feature of some kind of, like immutable, facet of your identity. You get called a TERF because you hate on trans people and you don't have solidarity across cis trans lines as far as feminism goes. So like even the term feminist is a little bit sussy there, but we'll let it slide as we always do, right? We have to let it slide, right? Because we're supposed to be the ones that shut up and aren't rude and aren't abrasive, while meanwhile they can do the worst stuff in the world to us, right? TERF Island is weird. I remember Jessie Gender covered a book where a fictional female billionaire character dies, and they were not happy about it. Oh wait, so what is? Oh my God, Chazardus, thank you for the re-upping your membership. I think that's what just happened. I saw something pop up on. There it is. Yeah, I'm correct. NCC was right as always. I thought legally you can be more sarcastic with your publications if you want than in the US. Yo, it's weird though. Oh, wait, are we talking about, yeah, Jessie Gender covered in her book. They were not happy about that. Also in Heard, the Depp versus Heard case. I thought legally, yeah, so like, yeah, there are different rules. Like, right, if you're going to make a claim about JK Rowling, right, you kind of have to like prove it, right? Like she could sue you and say, can you prove that I hate trans people? And if you don't have like the fucking, if you don't have the receipts to prove that, then you might be in trouble, right? It's the burden of proof in terms of defamation and slander cases in the UK falls on the person accused rather than falling on the person doing the accusing like it does in the US. So that's a little different there. Okay, so they made a mistake. Sorry, we made a mistake. We used the term TERF. That was very offensive. We didn't mean to do that. We love TERFs too. Okay, thank you, Oxfam. You're very progressive. You're very progressive. You're very tolerant. There's almost like a paradox, I would say, about your tolerance, Oxfam. There's a bit of a paradox to that, but we'll let that slide because we're trans people. We're used to letting things slide, right? We're the ones that have to let things slide to make society, even function, right? We have to let go of everything. We have to be, magnanimous in every situation. We're used to letting things, being the ones that have to let things slide, right? We've therefore edited the video to remove the term TERF and are very sorry for the offense it caused. There was no intention by Oxfam or the filmmakers for this slide to have portrayed any particular person or people. We fully support both an individual's right to hold their philosophical beliefs. So yeah, they like hatred, bigotry, discrimination, transphobia. That's just that's just like your opinion, man, right? That's okay for you to, you can like, right? We'll let it slide. Oxfam's letting everything slide. A person's right to have their identity respected regardless of, you see, the thing is, there's your paradox of tolerance. You can't actually say what you can't actually mean what you're saying there, right? Supporting a person's right to have their identity respected, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, and sex characteristics, is diametrically opposed to this weird like paradox of tolerance that you have, as far as like, oh, that's just you hate trans people, you think that trans people are awful and like hurting women by the nature of our very existence, whether it's through like, entering women's spaces, for some of us, or they want to claim like ownership to, trans guys in some weird way, or that you're non-binary and you confound their dichotomy of identity. Like either you're somehow hurting somebody, right? And that's just their belief. That's just their belief, and far be it from Oxfam to get in the way of somebody's beliefs. So this is just a nothing, right? There's no content here. It's contradictory. It's PR speak. It's BS, right? That's what we got here. And so here we've got the new version. So let's take a look at the update.
How are you marking Pride Month this year? While LGBTQIA plus people around the world are deprived of basic safety, not protected by laws, preyed on by hate groups online and offline.
There it is. So that's the new slide that we've got. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody took exception to this, like some TERF was like, that looks like me. They're portraying me there, right? I don't know. They want to take everything personal. Angry Twitter posts, flames, hateful comments,
and offline. Discriminate.
It's a whole lot easier to get sued for defamation in the UK than in the US. Tabloids in the UK are much notorious for hyperbole and sarcasm, but they have to be more careful about what they print. So yeah, there we have it. They've done their update and they've taken out the offensive material. It seems like they feel like they were bad for making something that looked like J.K. Rowling, and they were bad for using the term TERF. About your Protect the Pride campaign. Yeah, what does protect mean? KJK is like, what, does anybody know her actual name? I always call her Posey Parker, not to be confused with Parker Posey, right? Posey Parker, but her real name is Kelly Jean something. It's a TERF that J.K. Rowling supports, who's got connections to hate groups, basically. It's got connections to far-right, reactionary people who like to make Roman salutes, people in the style of 1930s Germany, right? That's who KJK. You probably know her as Parker Posey, or Posey Parker. Parker Posey did nothing wrong. Posey Parker did everything wrong. That's the distinction there. We know we can't tolerate intolerance, right? So yeah, people are calling them out. The people are calling them on their BS here. You said protect the pride. What does that mean? What does that mean when you buckle immediately? What does that mean when you fold immediately, right? You're not protecting anything. And that is mine, Polly's, and a lot of trans people, a lot of our problem with certain allies, right? Is they want to talk the talk, they want to identify as allies, but when we need their help, when there's some opposition, right? When they have to do some fight, when it comes time for the fighting that is implied by protect, they're nowhere. They abandon us, right? And that's scary. That's really scary, right? I've always really hated how their names are so similar. I really like Parker Posey's work as an actor. Yeah. Is it Callaghan? Okay, I can. Yeah, Kelly Jean Callaghan is Posey Parker's actual name. So yeah, Jessie Gender did a video about her. Oh God, Maya Forstater. Speaking of evil TERFs, right? There it is. Okay, wait. Was this the one that got the weird comment? Polly, you got to see this comment, okay? Now, like I said, oh no, somebody replied to her. I hope they were nice. I hope you represented me well. 100 grid is right in the middle. I didn't even know that. Okay. Oh no, there's more replies. Her personality aggravates me to no end. She is often not wrong, but her stream is aggressively unpleasant. I love the NCC slander. I love the NCC slander. Look, like Polly's here, so she knows how it feels, right? I'm massively like I don't get haters like this, right? Usually it's the other way around. Like they like my personality or they like my political analysis, right? And then they don't like my takes on. I blocked her a while back. What is her deal, Polly? What is she, like a Twitch poll person? And again, we're not trying to do a deep dive on her. I don't want anybody, going to her page or anything like that. Like, don't give her any hate. Like, right? If she really is a troll, that just fuels their fire. And hopefully she's look. Here's my dream. Like, this is a person who's gonna warm up to me, right? She's like she probably hated me entirely at first, and then she heard me say something based, and she was like, "That was kind of base, but I still hate your guts," right? And now she's like, "I hate you. I don't hate your guts. You're like 100 grit sandpaper." And we're gonna try to work that grit up until like I'm a 1,000 grit sandpaper, and at some point I'm just gonna be a cozy pillow for her. But does she like what? She acts like she watches my stream. I think she's a Voshite. But I'm not wrong. She says I'm not wrong. This is a Vosh fight. So it says NCC was right. That's wild. That's wild. Calling anyone out for abrasive personality, but being a Vosh fan, hey, I don't know. Look, I love everybody. Okay, I'm just here for the love. But yeah, it's hard to love people that claim to be allies, that claim to want to stand up for you, and then they can't even just be like, you gotta Giga Chad this, okay? You drew J.K. Rowling in there. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should have drawn J.K. Rowling belongs in this scene. J.K. Rowling is a hater, all right? And if you're going to draw J.K. Rowling in there, please have the guts to not take her out, right? Because that encouraged Oxfam, you're going to get so much more shit now. They know how to push your buttons. They know how to change your mind. They know how to scare you, right? You can't let them have that. You can't let them do this. My picture of Sandpaper is sensitive. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, can I look at this? As long as it's Sandpaper and not like, boobies. So that's me. Okay, so yeah, okay, so like, yeah, like, wait, Natalie's right. Natalie's right. Like, you got 40 grade Sandpaper. That's pretty harsh, right? That's got to be like Chud logic, right? And then we got 60, what is that? Like Sansoy, maybe is it 60? 80, maybe Stardust. I don't know. 100 is no comment chick. What is 120? Who's like nicer than me? Is there anyone nicer than me? Name somebody nicer than me. I think I'm too nice sometimes. Polly knows I'm too nice, right? Polly, but Stardust is your personal bestie. That's why I gave her 80. She's right next to me, Polly. She's right next to me. Right? We're really close to being besties too. I'm pretty nice. Yeah, I don't know. Like Stardust is usually like, I don't know, just doing her own thing. Like she's not trying to like be a dick to anyone. She sometimes is, but you know, whatever. I'm too nice, unironically. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Anyway, enough about me, because we've got a lot to cover today, including... Oh, wait, we gotta check this out. All right, so this is an unplanned excursion here, but we gotta watch this, right? Check this out. That's Humanist Report, Mike Figueredo, a member of the Leftist Mafia podcast, and it looks like... So when we last left Mike Figueredo, we were sad because Mike got demonetized for YouTube, and I don't know why he would have gotten demonetized. Now, I've heard some speculation that Mike got demonetized because he went up against TYT, and TYT is an MCN. TYT is a multi-channel network. If you don't know what that is, that is like, I mean, you know how TYT works. It's not just TYT, it's the damage report, it's all these different channels, right? Are like into, and Humanist Report used to be one of these channels, right? Used to be part of the TYT MCN, right? So MCNs, like, you know, it kind of, you got a little bit more clout. It's not just you talking. If the MCN has a problem with something and they talk to YouTube, YouTube takes it a little bit more seriously. So I heard from a little bird out there that TYT's MCN approached YouTube and said, hey, this Mike Figueredo guy is a jerk face. He's a big old jerk face, and he's being a super meanie butt to TYT, and you need to demonetize them. And YouTube said, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, just because Anna wanted to talk about birthing people and how it's not right to call women birthing people, and it's not right to expand our notion of who can give birth beyond the idea, but beyond the concept of women give, you know, women. Like beyond 5th grade biology of like women have babies and men have, I don't know, jock straps, right? Like that. Yeah. So like that's what I heard. I don't know if it's true. I can neither confirm nor deny, but that is what the word on the street is that Mike Figueredo lost his monetization for calling out Anna Kasparian and Jake Huger on their ridiculous stuff. Stardust is actually pretty toxic. I haven't watched Stardust content in a long time. The last time I did, it was her weird interview with Eris, and I like felt legitimately worried for both of them. Like they were saying some stuff in that interview that was like, it felt like they couldn't talk about it on air, and I was like worried. Are they being blackmailed or something? Like, is that how Twitch politics works? Does Doobie email you your home address and then tell you to act right? Is that how that works? I don't know. There was some weird stuff that Eris and Stardust were talking about, but I couldn't really make heads or tails of it. So. It's a target-rich environment. Throw a rock and get a critical. Yeah, there's probably way better targets than Stardust. You're right, Pauly. Look, there's a lot of people that come to mind as far as problematic streamers. I don't even know what Stardust is up to these days. I don't think it's a worthwhile fight for her. Just saying that she's for sure toxic and cultivates and benefits from drama. That's why I don't really deal. Like, she's just a little too close to Twitch pull. That's my only issue with her, right? He released a short video talking about it. I think it was inconclusive, but YouTube might tell him soon what's up. Yeah, so this is, I'm just quoting people talking, right? There was somebody, I think in his replies, that when he was like, why am I demonetized? And they were like, well, what do you expect when you go after TYT? It's a multi-channel network. And I'm like, oh, wow, does this person know something I don't? I don't know. Good luck to her on humanizing herself to Richard Spencer. I don't know. I don't even know if that's what she's up to these days. My guess is that Richard Spencer is a little bit beyond, her reach in terms of guests she can get these days. But, she had a nice run of it.
I finally have an update about the situation regarding monetization on this channel, and I am very happy and relieved to report that as of today, monetization is back on this channel.
It feels good.
And you might have even seen an ad before this YouTube video, which is very, very annoying because ads are annoying, but nonetheless vital to the survival of this channel. So I wanted to give you all that update on video because after so many of you responded with words of encouragement and advice, I can't just tweet about this. I can't just provide you with an update in a comment on the last video. Like, I need to actually explain how overwhelming the response from this community was after I posted that video of me distraught on Friday because...
Chat, I'm curious about something, okay? Let me tell you a little story. January 6th, 2021. There was a little incident at the US Capitol, right? There were people in the Trump camp saying stop the steal. Mike Pillow was going on Fox News making all kinds of weird claims, and I covered it. I talked about it. I watched what they had to say, their accusations of impropriety in the US election, and I reacted to it. My reaction obviously was not favorable. Was not, maybe they've got a point. Maybe Biden didn't, it wasn't like that at all, right? Like, I called it for what it was. I called it cope, right? YouTube served me up with my first warning, right? I got a warning on YouTube, right? And if you don't know, here's how YouTube works, right? Warning. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, your channel's gone, right? Warning, you get a warning. And there's no consequences, although people say that there's an algorithmic consequence. People say this warning gets you downgraded in the algorithm. I can neither confirm nor deny that, right? First strike, a week with no streaming, right? A week with no streaming, no videos, no nothing, right? You can't do it. Your channel's locked for a week, right? Strike 2, I think you get that again, right? And maybe even more. Maybe it's like a month or something. Like, I think strike 2 is even worse. Strike 3, you're gone. Your channel's deleted. It's over, right? So that's all the chances you get. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, you're gone, right? And I've got one of those. I've got the warning, right? Now, an interesting thing has happened since then, right? Let's take a look here. Tim Pool. Oh my God, we're gonna watch Tim Pool. That's right. We're gonna go over to Tim Pool's channel really quick. Election. I love Tim Pool. Just like Polly and Stardust are besties. Me and Tim Pool are definitely besties as well. Friend of the VOD. Oh, here we go.
We have this story from Axios, and actually we were going to lead with the Elon Musk stuff promoting what is Roman. It's massive.
So now
100
check
million views or whatever.
this out.
And then I can't remember who, I think, was it you or someone mentioned that
I mentioned it, yeah.
This story, Axios says YouTube reverses misinformation policy to allow U.S. election denialism. And they say the company's confirmed in a reversal of its election integrity policy, YouTube will leave up content that says fraud, errors, or glitches occurred in the 2020 presidential election and other U.S. elections, the company confirmed to Axios.
Interesting.
On Friday. The election was stolen from Richard Nixon in the 60s when...
Okay, so that's about all we need from Tim Pool, but isn't that interesting, right? YouTube has reversed its course and said that all this stuff, in other words, the stuff that I was covering, the stuff that I was disagreeing with, that's all Gucci. That's all okay. Right? And yet, if and I'm not going to show you because I never show you the back end. I don't know, chat. I almost feel like I could show you. Chat, do you want to see my back end? One in chat if you want me to show you my back end. My beautiful, lovely posterior end. Do you want to see my back end, chat? Is that TOS? Am I gonna get in trouble here? I never show this to you, but here it is. All right. Oh my God, there it is. The reveal, back end reveal. right? So now this is basically my dashboard, right? When I like, that's how many, followers I have, 1,594. We're really close to 1,600. So if you haven't already joined up, if you haven't already become a member, not a member, but a subscriber of the channel, which means a different thing that it does on Twitch. On Twitch, subscribing means you pay $5. On YouTube, it's free. You just hit subscribe and you're subscribed, and you'll be kept alerted on all my activities, right? If I do anything, if I sneeze, if I burp, if I fart, you'll get a notification. No Comment Chick has burped, right? You'll get that notification. No Comment Chick is going live. No Comment Chick has posted right? You'll get that information, right? It'll come to you, right? So that's a great thing to do. It helps me out, and I'm almost on 1,600. I would love to get that during the stream. It would be so cool to cross that threshold right here. But yeah, so if you see right here, right, active community guidelines strikes warning. Okay, so you're looking at it, chat. You're looking at it right now. This is my back end that I'm showing you. Here, let me hide it for a second and see if I can show you this too. Okay, yeah, I can show you this, I think. I'm just making sure there's no weird information that I don't want to share on here. This one. Okay, so check this out. Trump back in control by August. Yeah, maybe it was the clickbait title, right? Because that's what he was saying. Oh wow, look, this was like June 14th, 2021, but I was covering the Stop the Steal people. I was covering all that, Copium's last breath. So it should have been clear from when I said Copium's last breath, policy misinformation, right? They docked me for spreading misinformation. Now they say this stuff isn't misinformation, but look what's still here. Appeal rejected, right? So I appealed this because like I wasn't doing anything wrong. I appealed it and the appeal got rejected. Your content was removed due to a violation of community guidelines because it's your first time your account isn't affected. You're only warned. Now they say that, right? But the word on the street is that your account is affected and you do get like an algorithmic deboost, but I can neither confirm nor deny that, right? I was just made aware of this. This is Vice's news channel. And apparently there's stuff on here that people want me to watch at some point. But first, I think we're gonna... Just wanted to check in on this really quick. Oh no. Vice on... See, this worries me though. If this is Vice on Showtime, like, are they gonna come after this as far as DMCA? Somebody check on this. Somebody check and see if other people... Like, I need to know if other people are getting away with watching Vice News and Vice on Showtime in particular, right? And then I'll be able to watch this. Let's see. Matt Walsh. Jose.
Matt Walsh is not an interesting guy. His talking points are poorly evidenced and
Matt Walsh will not show you his back end on stream, I'm pretty sure.
Infantile. His delivery is flat and lacking in charisma, and the subjects he covers reveal an embarrassingly narrow perspective of the world. But he is incredibly lucky, and that's the secret to his success. Matt Walsh matters insofar that he serves as an object lesson on how right-wing media figures continue.
Oh yeah, by the way, this is Jose. Let me copy the link. That's what I want to do. I want to share with you Jose's channel on YouTube. If you have not already subscribed, I would also recommend, I'm asking you to subscribe to multiple channels, right? Like I said, subscribing is free. Hitting that like button is free, and that helps me out enormously, right? But yeah, make sure to give Jose some love. Jose gives us really good videos. He's got a lot of cool breakdowns on stuff. You ever wanted to find out about Ben Shapiro's crappy novel, True Allegiance? Jose will explain it to you in detail. So definitely a channel worth watching.
continuously push on the limits of acceptable discourse to drag society backwards into a regressive state that strips away the rights of people to create a religiously centered culture. This kind of extreme Christian conservatism has been going on for a long time, and it's
Or theocratic fascism, if you will.
important to continuously oppose. But Matt Walsh himself, he's mediocre at best. There are a lot of other people doing the same thing and often much better than he is, but why is he someone people suddenly have to care about? Let's do a quick rundown of this guy's history if you're not familiar with him. Originally a radio host in Delaware, Walsh bounced around from a few jobs, struggling to last for more than a year or two. He started a blog in 2012, eventually catching the attention of Glenn Beck's The Blaze in 2014. In 2017, he started writing for Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire, and he got his own show, The Matt Walsh Show, in 2018. But it wasn't until 2022 that he really started catching people's eye, notably with his anti-trans movie, What is a Woman? As his biggest success by far, it would be weird not to mention it, but I'm not going to go too into depth on this particular movie because it's been thoroughly debunked by other people on YouTube. So if you want a detailed breakdown, I would recommend Jessie Gender's videos on the subject. She goes into great detail on why this movie is a load of propaganda. But we do at least have to address what kind of content he puts out there, so instead I'm going to...
I see Hassan has Vice reaction videos on YouTube, so it's okay for him. Yeah, so I know that, like, watching Vice's main channel, it seems to be okay. Like, right, I've had some issues in the past, but I feel like the main channel is okay. That's Vice News, though, that I was looking at. And the issue with them is that some of their stuff has the Showtime label on it, and I know that those, like, HBO, Showtime, those are the big, you know, copyright claimers right there. So yeah, we don't want to get in trouble with them, but
to take a look at what it's like to watch his show. The Matt Walsh Show has a...
I just need some confirmation that people are watching Vice News, and particularly Vice on Showtime content, and not getting clapped.
A basic formula. He has one story he speaks to for the first 15 to 20 minutes of the show, then a series of 5 headlines he gives a couple of minutes to, then he responds to viewer comments, and finally one last...
Yo, we got the big baby Walsh. Oh my god, chat. I feel like we should add that. Look, since I'm not allowed to use any logos on Twitch, right? They said that, like, that are not logos, but like what is it? Like 3% of the screen. Polly, make sure to check this out, right? Like, read the email that they sent. They're saying that any logo that is a brand that is not Twitch, that is over 3% of the screen, is like gonna get you in trouble now. So I don't know how hard they're gonna go on this. I feel like they got a lot of people mad about this, so they might walk it back. Let's hope that they walk it back, right? But I took my throne down when I was on Twitch earlier, right? Because, like, I mean, I don't know, is that 3% of the screen? I don't want to find out. Let's put something up there though that it's been a long time coming. Look, we're supposed to get some, like, you know, if I'm gonna make this work, I'm gonna have to sell merch, right? And I don't have any of my own merch to sell at the moment. So I was hoping maybe to get away with, like, selling somebody else's merch. There we go. There we go. See, look at that. Look at that, right? Do you want to buy one of these, chat? It's Big Baby Walsh. It's Big Baby Walsh. Look at him. There he is. We got Big Baby Walsh. Right, where should we put him? Where does he go? Like right down here? Big Baby Walsh. I don't know. I kind of like him right there.
Story to cap off the episode. Although it's segmented to give the show the appearance of
I know, right, Polly?
variety, the only real difference is the length of each segment.
No, like I said, like there's a lot of people going off on Twitch right now on Twitter. Let's hope that they listen.
As pretty much all of it is just Walsh commenting on a piece of news or another
It's
commentary.
horrifying. It's truly
The first
horrifying.
thing I noticed while watching is that even for the big stories up front, Matt Walsh very rarely goes into detail about any subject he's supposedly commenting on. This is particularly obvious when he discusses trans issues, something he typically touches on several times an episode. In one episode from May 2nd, 2023, titled Princeton Professor Tries to Debunk Biology, Fails Hilariously, episode 1156, my god, he's done a lot of these, Walsh responds to an article published on the Scientific American website. For some context before we jump in, this article is titled, Here's Why Human Sex is Not Binary, Ova Don't Make a Woman, and Sperm Don't Make a Man, by Agustin Fuentes, a professor of anthropology at Princeton University. This article is a response to how the emphasis is often placed on how people are assigned male or female at birth on the basis of whether they produce sperm or ova. He provides a few examples of people reducing sex to one of those two things, and then explains with more examples and commentary from various scientific sources
Watching him
how
crawl
the
around
many
the
complications
screen?
of
Good
human
idea.
sex make it difficult to place it in a binary. Here's an excerpt from the article that sums it up well.
When someone states that, quote, an organism's sex is defined by the type of gamete, sperm, or ova it has the function of producing, unquote, and argues that legal and social policy should be, quote, rooted in properties of bodies, unquote,
Oh, there you go.
they are not really talking about gametes and sex biology. They are arguing for a specific political and discriminatory definition of what is quote-unquote natural and quote-unquote right for humans based on a false representation of biology.
And he gives several historical examples of what that discrimination has often looked like. It's a pretty good article that offers a primary for why sex shouldn't be understood
Video is low
as a
volume. Let's see if we
binary
can fix
and
that.
focuses
Oh,
on how sex is used by political actors.
thank you for letting me know, Florida Cube. Thank you for letting me know that. Yeah, that was actually me. That was my fault, right? Sometimes the volume's just low because some people don't know how to produce content. It's actually tricky, right? I know how to optimize my volume on YouTube. I suspect that most people that are making YouTube videos do not. So you get a lot of variance in terms of YouTube volumes, but yeah.
To discriminate against others.
Perfect.
Matt Walsh is not so kind in his assessment of the article. What's most noticeable in his analysis, though, is how shallow his reading of the article is. Here's how he starts his segment.
Starting at the top of the article, it says, there are those politicians, pundits, and even a few scientists who maintain that whether our bodies make ova or sperm are all we need to know about sex. We already see the game that he's playing. The headline promises proof that human sex is not binary. This is a big promise, but then in the first sentence, Professor Fuentes sets himself up for a very different.
After watching a few videos reacting to Matt Walsh in Diaper Plush, YouTube started recommending me some odd videos. And Matt claims that the plush is a kid's toy. That is a nightmare kid's toy. That is a scary kid's toy.
And much smaller task.
It's weird that Matt Walsh is calling the first sentence some kind of sleight of hand when it was clear what the article was about from the subheading, though that part of the article is never shown or read during this segment, just the broad headline up top. Kind of be like talking about the Star Wars movies without including their subheadings. It kind of is important to differentiate them and give you a little more context of what's being discussed, but instead we're getting context removed so Matt Walsh can more easily make his point. You really get the impression he either hasn't read or is deliberately ignoring certain parts of this article. Here's some more evidence of that.
That's a lot of what he depends on, right? A lot of what Matt Walsh gives you is like smoke and mirrors, right? It's very Wizard of Oz, right? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, because the man behind the curtain is really doctoring what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're perceiving, right? If you look at what is a woman, for instance, right? A lot of people, like, you know, will say, especially like conservatives that want to like the whole Elon thing, right? The whole thing where he had what is a woman on Twitter, and at first it was flagged as hate speech, and then Elon was like, oh no, this is not right, it shouldn't be flagged as hate speech, right? The people who defend him and say it's not hate speech will say he's not yelling, he's not insulting, he's not berating, he's just asking questions. Is he though? Is he though? Because he's asking questions and then he's editing the answers, right? He's curating what you're seeing. He's curated. He's showing you, you know, a question, and then a curated version of the answer. So instead of showing like the entire answer, which was long and involved, you know, because he asks a very broad question. That's his whole thing. Is he tries to pack as much as he can into that little question. What is a woman, right? It ends up being a very broad question. Really, the proper response to what is a woman is like, what do you mean, right? What do you mean? That's an overly broad question. What do you actually mean? What are you getting at? What are you actually asking, right? Because like that question in and of itself doesn't mean it's something, but he does the SpongeBob thing to this professor, right? Where he takes the person's, like, let's say that the answer was like a 2-minute long answer, right? He'll show you the first 45 seconds of that answer, then he'll clip like 15 seconds out and show you the end of it. And you get the feeling that this guy went on for like 2 hours later, 2 days later, 5 years later, right? That's the feeling that you get. But in actuality, when you see the extended interview, he wasn't really, speaking as long as Matt Walsh wants you to think. And like there was stuff in that part that he took out of it that connects everything, that makes everything make sense. So you take somebody's answer, you take the important context out of it, and you present a winding, rambling, non-meaningful response to what sounds like a simple question. What is a woman? Adult human female. Vagina user, right? I don't know. Like you could come up with like, right, the kind of overly simplified questions the answers that he wants to that question, right? Not even joking about it. He also said in the text of the website, selling the toy, he should have just said that it was for his stupid teenagers and adults fans. He does somewhat disavow this toy, right? His claim is that this toy was something that his audience asked for and that he thinks it's creepy, right? So I don't know how much of that is like him just like wanting that plausible deniability or whatever, and how much of that is real. But yeah, he claims that like it was after they did the Johnny the Walrus toy, his marketing people were like, hey, we need to sell another plushie toy, and they asked the fans, and the fans were like, let's do a big baby Matt. Let's get the big baby Matt. We want the bearded baby.
He announces his intention to respond to the claim that whether our bodies make ova or sperm are all we need to know about sex, except that, well, nobody ever said that ova and sperm are all we need to know about sex.
If you read the original science...
But what you are saying is that people that are intersexed who do exist, and like I think Jose is going to talk about, like, we're actually talking about like 1% of the population here, right? He's going to say, that's a mistake. That's an aberration. That is not really what we're talking about. But it's like, wait, you're talking about humanity, right? You're talking about, the phenomenon of sex in human beings. And you can't actually rightly describe that without including intersex, right? And he can't handle it. His worldview has no room for it. He needs to oversimplify it. He needs to make you think that you learned everything about sex in like, 5th grade. Like, that just like boys have a X or boys have a Y, girls have an X, and, substitute your genitalia for the X and the Y. He needs to oversimplify it in order to sell this ridiculous worldview, in order to, make his detractors look ridiculous, right? That's his game.
Scientific American article, you can see he's linked several examples of people saying just that. Not that you have to go anywhere else, because you can see Walsh do a version of it himself less than a minute later.
He's not actually, it looks like, going to be disproving it. He's just adding on other details. But even if those other details are true, that wouldn't disprove the basic fact that there are only male and female gametes, which means that there are only two sexes, which means that sex is binary.
Reading the article, Professor Fuentes clarifies that when someone, like Matt Walsh, claims there are other factors, they never seem to explain anything beyond genitals and gametes. This video is just another case of that. We're told there are other factors, but never what those factors actually are. Seems like it would be a really good time to bring them up, but we just don't get them here. The segment...
I mean, that's the only way that you can take a layman's perspective, like Matt Walsh's perspective, and dress it up as like an erudite, cultured, understanding, educated individual's perspective, which it's not. It's not. Every single one of these Daily Wire people have failed out of something else, have tried to be an actor. In Matt Walsh's case, have tried to be a radio host, right? Have had career version number one, and it didn't work, right? So instead, they found what did work, which was like hating on trans people, or hating on, like just basically stoking this general like right-wing ignorant hate machine.
And is exhausting in that it's more or less Walsh going through the article, reading lengthy excerpts and reacting to them. But each time he misses crucial context that would either change or complicate what he's trying to respond to. He'll complain that the article is just making empty assertions, apparently unaware that in the original you can see it links to many sources, several from peer-reviewed journals. It actually assembles quite a bit of evidence to support each claim that's being made. Not that you could ever tell from the Walsh segment, since the excerpts are just displayed as text and you can't really tell they're linking to a lot of supporting information. Throughout this entire segment, Matt Walsh doesn't cite a single source. He just makes a vague allusion to the science. This is a pattern.
And that's what I'm talking about. He's alluding to like a middle school biology textbook, right? He's alluding to where most people's understanding of sex is like arrested, right? Which is at a very early level, unless you're going into a biological field or a medical field, right? Some of these things just are not emphasized in education in any way, and to the degree that they are, it's remembered for the test and then forgotten afterwards. It's not something that most people understand, right? He's relying on that. He's harnessing that ignorance. He's selling that ignorance, repackaging it and selling it back to you.
The challenge in responding to so much of what Matt Walsh says is that he not only doesn't understand what he's responding to, whether that's deliberate or not, he also refuses to do any homework. If someone cites scientific research that counters his claim, he just doesn't acknowledge it. Walsh smugly argues at the end,
variations within a category do not invalidate the category. Males need to exist as a category.
What is he actually trying to say there? Variations within a category. So the category is like male and female and oh my God. Like
category in order for us to say anything about a male, a human male, such as human males are all different. They have different.
Here's what I think. I think to Matt Walsh in his essentialistic view of sex, it's something like, it's more like an ideal, right? Masculine and feminine are ideals. And so while he does allow for variation, that variation is like alpha male, beta male, etc., right? That variation is like, do you live up to your essentialized gender role? Are you a alpha male? Are you a true male? Do you do you care too much about what women think? Do you take command of a situation? Do you dominate space? Right? If you're a woman, are you subservient enough? Are you yielding enough? Do you shut up and let your man do the talking? Do you make sure to do the emotional labor to cater to his feelings? Like, these are the things that he's like looking for. So he does have variation there, but it's like a test score. It's like, how much of a percent do you get on Professor Walsh's like gender essential test? How much do you meet this ideal? This kind of meaningless, because if you look into like what Platonic ideals are, they are at the very end of the day meaningless, right? They're empty. They are undefinable and undefined, right? Like the example is like, what is a chair, right? So people talk about this question of what is a chair when people try to oversimplify things through thought-terminating cliches like what is a woman, right? And, if you haven't walked through, I think a lot of you have heard of this before. I think a lot of you are familiar with this thought experiment, right? What is a chair? Seems like a simple question, right? You start to answer it. It is an object that is meant to sit on, and it has 4 legs, and a back to it, right? And then you could find an object like that with 4 legs and a back to it that's not a chair, right? You could find chairs that don't have 4 legs. You could find a chair could, like those, kind of plastic chairs, right? That have there's chairs that have a base. They have 1 base rather than 4 legs, right? So no matter how you try to define it, you're not going to find a definition. You have 4 legs and a back. Yeah, and somebody could sit on, you ostensibly, right, Zara? But that's not, that does not make you a chair. So, the truth of the matter is it's kind of a social construction at the end of the day. It cannot be like pared down into a simplification. Neither can something like woman. Because honestly, what being a woman, it means something different to every woman. And the idea that the knowledge master in this case, the professor in our what is a woman symposium 101 here, is a man, that should tell you everything you need to know about his view of women. In fact, a woman in Matt Walsh's view has something really big in common with a chair, right? Just like a chair, what is a woman to Matt Walsh? Property, an object, a means to an end. Ironically enough, a birthing person, like, right? A tool for reproduction, right? His answers to what, if you really get inside this guy's head and find out what he thinks a woman is, like, it's unacceptable to most people. And yet he's able to portray himself through being the one asking the questions, through this false Socratic method that he uses. He's able to kind of obfuscate that, his worldview holds, what is a woman? Someone who is subordinate to a man, who is subordinate to a god, who is made in, I don't know, God, it's
different expressions.
This article is not arguing that categories within sex don't exist. Categories do exist within a spectrum.
Like, there's a lot of people that buy into the Matt Walsh, like, personality cult, that if they knew more about who he is and what he thinks and what his answers are to these questions, they would not be part of that, right? So here we have the visible light spectrum, right? You got ultraviolet up here, you got infrared down here. Now look at this. This is an interesting thing about visible light. It's measured in nanometers, right? We're talking about the nanometers. We're talking about the length of the frequency. It's kind of funny to think about color like that, because we usually think about color as, well, just what we're looking at right here: color, shades, hues, right? All that. But in actuality, the colors that we see are formed by different wavelengths of light, which are either transmitted through a colored light or are reflected off of an object, which absorbs certain wavelengths but not others. And the aggregate color we see is actually the aggregate of all the wavelengths that material does not absorb. So yeah, it's an interesting.
When a scientist says light is a spectrum, for instance, they're not saying that colors don't exist, just that the boundaries between colors are not so clear-cut as they would be in a binary. And Walsh doesn't even seem to understand the basic.
So yeah, like a nanometer is a very tiny unit of measurement. And yet, even with that tiny unit of measurement, you could have infinite values, right? If you get precise enough, right? Because, you could 700 nanometers, 600 nanometers, right? Pretty rough. 650 nanometers, getting a little bit more specific. 643 nanometers, even more specific. 643.5, 643.50126884, right? you could get really specific with that, and there are conceptual differences, maybe not detectable by the human eye, but that's what Jose is trying to get to, is that even though we think of colors as like a set of, like I was doing the colors for the thumbnail today, and I was getting the the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet of the rainbow flag together, right? Those aren't real in the sense that there's no definite like this is blue, and anything like you know what I mean. You can't say that like this exact wavelength like down to like a million, like a millionth of a nanometer is blue, and then anything like above or below is not, right? So these are constructions, these are estimations, these are in some ways socially constructed, right? They're agreed upon things that we're gonna call these the major divisions of color, but in actuality it's there are infinite colors.
Point of this article.
And some would say infinite genders.
It's not about upending some kind of scientific consensus that he's imagined. It's using established science to talk about how that science is politicized.
Well, what it is that Matt Walsh and people like him have convinced themselves that they know enough of the science to have like a decent map of the world. And in actuality, they haven't. So when they say it comes up against like the science, it disagrees with the science, what they're saying is that this disagrees with my like 7th grade notion of science, with my much reduced, oversimplified map of the science, right?
And Matt Walsh is doing that politicizing in this very video. He's not engaging with any of the material in a meaningful sense, he's just twisting it to meet his own ends. This is what Walsh's content often boils down to, butchering evidence to make a hateful point.
Yeah, exactly. 0x0 ADA. There's infinite number of numbers between 1 and 0, or between 650 nanometers and 650.1 nanometers, or any two numbers. Reality rarely fits in a box.
In the May 3rd...
And that's what science is. Science is an inquiry. Science doesn't really settle a lot, right? In fact, just that very notion of settled science is a bit of a misnomer. We can say that, we can falsify certain notions, right? The geocentric theory of space was once somewhat accepted. It's been falsified. You can say that like the Earth is not at the center of the universe. It's not even at the center of the solar system, right? But in terms of the nuances of the orbits of the different planets and how they vary, I would assume that a lot of what we have is like a theoretical model that it has strong predictive value, but in terms of like the minuscule accuracy, it leaves something to be desired, and we're finding out new things every day, and we're understanding more, right? The atom was taken as the smallest unit of matter, and then we start to get a little bit finer, and we say, okay, well, now there's things that are making up there's units that are making up the atom, and we look at those units and we find quarks, and we find subatomic matter, right? And like it's a continuing inquiry, right? Not some kind of like settled thing of like, well, everybody knows that there's two.
2023 episode of his show, Mothers of Trans Kids Give Insane Reasons for Transitioning Their Children, episode 1157, we get all of that ignorance distilled into one of Matt Walsh's favorite rhetorical moves.
But we don't even need to talk about the science because it's also logically fallacious. It doesn't make any logical sense.
Of all the episodes I watched while researching this video, he never gets around to talking.
Now that's funny for him to say that, because he's got so many unresolved contradictions in his logic
About the science. He would rather fixate on the simplified language of activists than actually dive into the science he's supposedly defending. And that's how he operates on most topics. In another episode, The Left Demands We Surrender Our Families and Communities to Violent Criminals, episode 1159, he describes a story where a trans man, Banco Brown, in San Francisco was shot and killed by armed security outside of Walgreens after Brown was suspected of shoplifting.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, relativity says that the very concept of sinner is entire. Yeah, think about that. Think about what a weirdly egotistical concept sinner actually is.
Since no charges were filed and Brown was trans and black, and since this happened in San Francisco, Matt Walsh believes we don't need to look at the actual details of this case.
As we know, the official legal bar for self-defense is set at a certain height, but the unofficial bar for self-defense against someone who belongs to 3 different victim classes is set significantly higher. And this security guard apparently cleared both the official bar and the unofficial bar, which is all we really need to know.
Yeah, Jose watches a lot of really painful content for us, right? And I do too, right? I guess.
He mentions 3 victim classes in this clip because he's also misgendering Brown. Actually, looking at the details of this case reveals some interesting facts, such as Brown was alleged to have threatened to stab the security guard, yet no knife was recovered at the scene.
Okay, we're on YouTube. Okay, God. I'm like thinking about, we can't show this on Twitch, and we're not on Twitch today.
And Walsh's commentary completely ignores the fact that this killing has raised an interesting question about armed security being used at a drugstore. We can
still, I don't really like to revel again, and you know what I mean. There are some channels that'll, you know, I feel like, I don't know. I'm not trying to revel in violence either. What happened with Twitch? Good question. See
Walsh lie about this in real time as he describes the activists.
That's why activists in San Francisco are now calling for the abolition of security guards in response to this incident.
Activists aren't.
So if you search Twitch on Twitter right now, you're going to see people talking about a policy decision made by Twitch, which was, I guess, meant to clarify something that had been on the books for a long time I wasn't even aware of, right? Apparently, not just partners, but also affiliates, we're not supposed to be allowed to dual stream, right? We're not allowed to, you know, stream on both Twitch and YouTube, right? And they've expanded that now because they've written those rules into the terms of service, meaning that anybody who uses Twitch, while they're streaming Twitch, they're not allowed to stream to any web-based streaming service, right? So TikTok, yes. Instagram, yes. YouTube, no. Right? Now, I don't know how hard they're going to ride this. I don't know if they're going to be banning people over this. And I don't exactly want to find out by getting banned today. So we started off the stream on Twitch today and then immediately moved over to YouTube, right? And part of that is just me. I'm a little bit mad at Twitch for doing this, right? They've done that. They've also limited our sponsorships, how we're able to get money. They've made life harder for us monetarily. So, you know, I'm trying not to freak out too much, even though this does really throw all of my calculations about, you know, do I have enough money? Can I continue? All this stuff has been being thrown in the air. But, you know, all I can do right now is move my stream to YouTube, because YouTube, I know that I'm not going to get in trouble on it. And then we're going to do another stream later tonight on Twitch that's going to be more gaming centered. I don't know, like, right? I do want to be on both platforms. I do care about both platforms. I do have people that I care about on both platforms, but I don't know if I'll get, you know, in trouble if I stream to both platforms. Yeah, well, that's what they're doing, Jules, is like Amazon, they're having trouble making stuff work for themselves financially on Twitch. And a lot of that's due to some poor, you know, decisions that they've made. But instead of making better decisions, which is what they should be doing, they're taking it out of the content creators. They're trying to make more money by giving us less money, by allowing us to earn less money. And until I know what's going on with it, right? Because, maybe they'll rescind this. Maybe they'll think better of this. Maybe they'll, because it feels like what Twitch has done, if they're going to stick with this, they have essentially signed their unaliving certification, right? They're not going to last like this. They can't, they're not going to keep content creators on here, and people like me and others are going to have to figure out other things to do, right? Executives and managers, yeah, they never blame themselves, or just like, do the right thing after, right? It's easy to see that somebody's going to make mistakes in their business decisions, but you can go the other way. You can change your mind.
Calling for the elimination,
and they're afraid to do that.
Of security guards, though. We can see that in the article Walsh himself is reading out. It's very explicit about it being armed security that they're concerned about. Instead of dealing with the points being raised by activists, Walsh would sooner misrepresent them so he can say stuff like this.
Stealing isn't worth the cost of a human life. So don't steal.
Walsh then goes on to make a painfully simplistic argument about the need to defend property with lethal force, which includes anything you might get from a Walgreens. It's a very bad and silly point on the face of it. If you need a YouTuber to explain why someone...
I wish that he had the ability to unfold that unnuanced view that he's got there about life, human life and property, and take it to its logical extreme, right? Because what he's trying to do is reify the concept of private property, right? Now, if we're all good leftists in here, right? So we understand the difference between private property and personal property, right? Nobody in here thinks that when I say private property, that I'm talking about your toothbrush, that I'm talking about your pen, that I'm talking about your cat ears, that I'm talking about your drink, that I'm talking about your food, right? That's personal property, right? But private property is, is the property that you hold above and beyond what you need for your person. That is essentially functioning as leverage, right? Whether it be capital, luxury items, etc. Right? That's the difference, right? So if Matt Walsh really wants to say, okay, so property isn't worth a life, so don't steal. Matt, who's stealing? Where did that property come from? Where did any of this stuff come from? Workers made it and then had it expropriated from them by this system of capitalism, right? You want to talk about who's stealing and is it worth their life? Matt, you're talking about the capitalist class that has to make that determination, right? And at the end of the day, if they keep on aggregating their private property out of our personal property, out of what we need to survive and sustain ourselves, they are going to reap the freaking whirlwind.
Shouldn't be executed on the spot for stealing a loaf of bread, or even, as Walsh at one point speculates, some fancy headphones. Then you have a perspective on life that I don't think...
because we know about all the fancy headphones at Walgreens, right? That's definitely where you go for fancy headphones.
It's going to be changed by a single YouTube video. Here's some more criminal justice reform ideas from Walsh. This time it's regarding the death penalty for pedophiles.
Not only are we executing these people, but we're doing it quickly. We're not giving them 30 years to appeal, okay? The conviction is passed down, you're convicted, you're guilty, you've been found guilty, and then the execution is carried out the next day. Take them out to the gallows, you bring them up on the platform, you tie a rope around their neck, pull the lever, boom, it's done.
Walsh concocts this whole imaginary scenario that, I'm sure in his mind, makes perfect sense. In the real world, though, death sentences are highly contested because many of them are overturned. For example, the Innocence Project specializes in overturning wrongful convictions through more modern investigative techniques. And many others sentenced to death have had those convictions overturned when new evidence is discovered. Walsh's fantasy leaves no room for that, and would mean innocent people would die. It also has this assumption that the justice system is perfect, which is just not true. Even on the point of a hanging being quick and effective, The reason hangings were stopped was because they often aren't. A botched hanging results in someone being slowly strangled to death. It's a struggle to describe Walsh's arguments as anything more than childish and lazy. He's very good at finding a way to never think deeply about any of the topics he covers. Why cite scientific research when you can simply make a reference to the science? Why honestly debate what activists are saying when you can create a simpler straw man to rail against instead? Why genuinely consider how the death penalty is applied when you can instead make up an imaginary scenario that is completely divorced from reality? Poor arguments framed by missing context aren't all his show is, though. He does devote a lot of time to creating bait. This is usually in the shape of having an over-the-top reaction about trivial things. For example, calling people savages if they let their pets sleep in the same bed.
Don't sleep with a dog in your bed, you savages.
He also describes adults who like Disney World as
What? That's a really interesting and weird pet peeve, right? Like this is the return to tradition guy, right? Telling you not to sleep in a bed with your dog, right? Right? It's he reads. I think they're talking about like immunocompromised people, and maybe some story that he read where like sleeping, with your pet could put you in some danger if you're an immunocompromised person. And his answer is like, why are you sleeping with your pets, you savage? What is he implying? Is he implying like, that something untoward is going on with the family pet? Is he implying dog pill stuff? I don't know what he's saying. This is what his audience wants. If he took the time to have nuance, he'd lose them really quick, right? Make them think he's exactly, you got it. Why do all these right-wing front runners look like villains? Good question. Why does this little baby even look at this thing? Oh my god, it moved, didn't it? My cat sleeps wherever I sleep. Yeah, and you're not. I mean, for a lot of people. Oh my god, it's moving. It's moving. Look at this. Look at this creepy little baby. This creepy little baby. What is going on with this, right? Okay, that's just creepy. Imagine Vosh would love that. Vosh would love to get that debate. I think did Matt Walsh talk about Vosh? So if you don't know, Jose went a little bit into Matt Walsh's format, like the way that his show works, the format of his show. He does have a segment called Canceled, right? Where he'll go over somebody in social media that he doesn't like. And I swear, it feels like, I think, has he done Vosh? The creepy baby is creeping. That sounds like, oh no, I'm not talking about Matt Walsh ex Vosh, but wow, that's an interesting ship. What would that be called? Walsh? The world does not need that.
Is mentally ill, and he hates bicycle lanes. It's here his commentary is more obviously laid bare as the trolling it so often is. And what makes it effective is that it's hard to tell apart from his more serious commentary. They're similarly poorly argued and often based on Walsh's gut feelings about something.
I hate it, yeah.
And he's needlessly confrontational about everything he says. It would be nice if he were just a silly guy we could afford to ignore, crying about people who let their pets sleep on the bed, using his pathetic bait to get media watchdogs and other commentators like myself to address him like he's someone worth considering. And if that was all he was, I wouldn't waste time talking about him in a video like this one. Instead, I think it's important to acknowledge this bait because it reflects the soft nature of all his news commentary, and there are aspects of that commentary that are genuinely harmful. The bait and the harmful commentary are similar in that none of it is very substantial, and whenever it approaches any subject that has any complexity whatsoever, for example, gender, all that nuance and complexity gets wiped away so Matt Walsh can comment on it at his own level. And as embarrassing as all of this is, the saddest part of—
Are you surprised? We know about this guy's worldview, right? We know that he is a dominionist. We know that he's a Christian nationalist, right? We know that he believes in one God, in one true church, in an order of the universe that is like God, man, meaning man as in men, like, right? You know, males, right? Woman, you know what I mean? Like his worldview is very simplified, very ridiculously simplified, some would say. So it's not that surprising how, you know, this absurdity creeps into his takes.
Of the show is when he starts arguing with YouTube comments.
And at Accretionist says, yes, respecting LGBT people is difficult for you, and asking for that respect is brainwashing.
Wait, what did they call it? The Great Chain of Being? Oh, wait, no, wasn't the Great Chain of Being was different, though. Anybody familiar with the Great Chain of Being? I think this is like a pre-Enlightenment idea. But the weird thing was this, like, I think the way it worked, like, because this is not his worldview, right? It was God, the angels, women, and then men, right? And now, before you get it, like, right, this wasn't like some kind of matriarchal system or anything. It was a weird pedestal that women were held on, where they were viewed as being more like, yeah, and below men were animals, right? So you had the more holy on the top of the hierarchy, and the more animalistic on the bottom of the and then demons and the devil were like under the animals, right? So like the women were pure and therefore closer to angels, closer to God, and men were hairy and, you know, rough and animalistic, right? But that's not what he's talking about here. He's
sadism, Matt. Well, I'm sure you do.
Or when he calls on his audience to harass Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade, everywhere he goes, should be jeered and mocked and shouted at everywhere he goes. That should happen.
And there are so many. Or when he calls on his audience to harass Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade, everywhere.
He's saying this because Dwayne supports his trans child.
Where he goes should be jeered and mocked and shouted at everywhere he goes. That should happen.
And there are so many other examples where Matt Walsh just seems determined to come off as like this lecturing dad type, ready to put someone in their place. He desperately wants to be seen as some kind of tough guy.
Okay, imagine this, chat. Matt Walsh with no beard. What do you think he looks like?
Or authority figure.
What's underneath that beard?
But it's not very convincing, and it just reads as deeply insecure. Part of the problem of responding to a guy like this is it's very easy to get trapped in the endless corrections for all the lies he spreads, whether he's doing it knowingly or because he just doesn't understand. The one overriding impression, though, is that this guy is clearly not capable enough to be arguing in the position he's found himself in. The whole package of the Matt Walsh show is a sad one. He's a limited man desperate to present himself as some kind of powerful voice. It raises the important question of how did this guy become as successful as he is? First, we should probably ask, though, was he always this bad? In a lengthy expose put together by Media Matters,
real?
A series of old clips from 2010 to 2011 revealed some commentary from Matt Walsh that display some of his more extreme positions.
Girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile. Yeah. Okay? That's biological. That's a fact, all right? I'm just stating facts.
It isn't a fact. According to the American Congress of Obstetrics and Gynecologists, it's from late teens to late 20s. So oh my God.
That's all I'm doing. Every kid, ideally, should go to college and be career-minded. Right. Every single person.
Straight tube to the chest, less than zero neck, negative neck.
But that's just not the reality. And there's a lot of girls out there that don't want that, okay? That's not what they want. They want to get married at a young age, settle down, and start having a family. And up until about 1950, that was normal. And then we decided that's not okay anymore. Like, that's not going to help you be a good leader.
93.5 The Beach. The Rock Station. The Rock Station.
You're at a retail
The Rock. What the hell kind of branding is that?
Stores that you have business. You learned about businesses because you read books about it. That's ridiculous.
When this story broke, some people were
There he is with, I mean, like, less of a beard.
Shocked by the content, and while it's certainly more mask off than his current stuff, you can see a lot of the patterns Walsh uses in the present day. In these old clips, he makes vague gestures to the past while being completely
Fitted baseball hat backwards.
historically illiterate, and he's unable to engage with viewpoints that aren't his own.
The thing is, he also kind of ages himself, right? Yeah, he is very much like fitting a role straight from central casting via this beard. The beard's doing a lot of work, is what I'm saying.
For example, in one of the longer clips, when he's making a point about teenage pregnancy and marriage, he has very poor responses to his co-host, who keeps raising the point of how difficult it is to avoid a family these days. These days being about 10 years ago. Not that it's gotten much better. Instead of actually engaging with this very valid point, Walsh goes on a rant about how college is useless and how people had the right idea 50 years ago and that 16-year-olds are basically adults. None of that is true, and none of it addresses the point that's being raised about the economics of bringing up a family today, especially if we're talking about a pregnant teenager. Never mind the social, personal, and physical burdens as well. But that's how Matt Walsh engages in any sort of debate. He has
the beard, the bass compressor on his mic, much like Vosh.
a specific idea of how...
Now, I heard that Vosh actually voice trained in order to get his voice lower. Or, like, this was a Vosh clip, right?
things work in his head, and he's not going to deviate from that, no matter what evidence you show him or what arguments you bring to his face. He has an opinion set in stone that's often simple and poorly informed, and he's not going to let anything change that. What these clips reveal is that Matt Walsh was making the same thoughtless, religiously tinted commentary throughout his career. This isn't a character he adopted a few years ago. This is just who this guy is. One of the keys to understanding this commentary is to know that Matt Walsh has a very specific kind of Christian worldview. He identifies as a Catholic, and through that faith, he interprets the world around him. While not all Christians, or even all Catholics, would share Walsh's vision of Christianity, he has found common cause among other Christian conservatives who support his faith-based arguments. When Walsh starts discussing politics, it's through that Christian lens his worldview starts to make sense, specifically when he identifies liberalism as satanic. In his 2017 book, The Unholy Trinity, Blocking the Left's Assault on Life, Marriage, and Gender, it opens,
"The first liberal was named Lucifer.
He elaborates on this a bit later, writing,
This philosophy
I think you mean the first neoliberal?
has propelled all the great villains throughout history. It is the philosophy of Judas, of Nero, of Genghis Khan, of Adolf Hitler, of Hillary Clinton.
Adolf Hitler, famously, really socially liberal guy.
The specifics of what these people all believed and how they framed it around political
Oh, look at that. Jessie, gender, doing the voiceover.
circumstances of the day isn't terribly relevant, for they desired the same thing and worshipped the
Satan is an anarchist. You take that back.
same God, the self.
Walsh later claims that even the label of liberal or progressive are different reflections of that same deeper idea of self-worship, making this opposition to self-worship a very malleable thing. When Walsh writes about the political circumstances of the day not being terribly relevant, it's a convenient way of discarding any additional facts or circumstances that might complicate the...
Maybe if he wasn't all about like ruling in hell, I could grant that. Like, I haven't seen a lot like wait, what is our source material with Satan? We've got... Is it Paradise Lost? Is that the main like place where like our modern view of Satan? I love how Hillary Clinton lives rent-free in these people, right?
point he's trying to make. A tactic
their minds and like no one else's, right? No one cares about Hillary.
Probably noticed earlier.
But we don't even need to talk about the science, which is all we really need to know about the case.
This is just Matt Walsh's move. Ignore nuance, ignore
Shin Megami Tensei?
complexity or depth, reduce everything to a simple talking point, and move on from there. To the point where Nero, Adolf Hitler, and Hillary Clinton are basically the same villain. Walsh certainly isn't an originator of this idea of self-worship, and it's a charge that any non-believers will probably
And I'm enough of a weeb to kind of know what that means beyond just a awesome series of RPG games.
recognize.
Oh, SMT is... Oh, no, SMT's got Lucifer and Satan as separate beings. Yeah. And Beelzebub, and like they've got like every different like version of like, is like different. Hitler.
It's this move of defining you not by what you believe, but what someone else says you're missing. In this case, worship of the god Matt Walsh believes in. It's a way of taking someone's arguments and beliefs away from them and instead placing them into an easily shaped straw man that can be more easily dispatched. It's a very lazy and dishonest way to frame somebody.
Yeah,
and by the way,
I feel like Innuendo Studios would say it's a way of putting them in a box, putting them in their own little box, so you can not have to deal with what they're saying and just say, oh yeah, no, that's in the box. Like you basically identify boxes, like feminism, like it's a box, right? The anti-SJW YouTube does not waste time refuting feminism, telling you why feminism is wrong. They've already decided that feminism is bad. They've already decided that feminism is wrong. All they have to do is put you in that box that says feminism, and they no longer have to pay attention to anything that you're saying. The Bible Satan is kind of vague force, not really a character. All the fallen angels, pitchforks, horns, and fire stuff come from later arts. Yeah, especially Paradise Lost is like a big one. Yeah, the thing about, it's funny, right? Because like I learned, my Christianity told me that Satan first appears in the book of Job, right? And I went on thinking this, right? That this character that God is talking to, this is God talking to a member of his court, which, I was told was Satan, and they're making a bet. God is like, look at this guy Job. Ain't he great? He is just awesome. He does what he says. He's a great man. He obeys all my commandments. Job is awesome. And Satan, right? Or at least I thought it was supposed to be Satan, says, I don't know, God. I feel like you kind of treated him really good. He's got a good life. He's got a good family. Everything's going right for him. Let's knock him down a couple of pegs and see how he does, right? And God's like, okay, take away his family, family's dead, take away his fortune, fortune's gone, right? Let's see what he does. And he's still like praising God, right? And that's the bet that they're trying to make, right? Now I was told, like I said, that this was Satan, but I learned later that the actual Hebrew is a character called the Satan, which I don't think that, like, in the original scriptures, I don't think that's regarded as Satan, right? The Satan is like a it's like a prosecuting attorney, right? Is a figure in the heavenly court that is doing the job of like a prosecutor. In some ways, is a devil's advocate more than a devil himself, right? And yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, an adversary. But yeah, the Satan stuff really comes up more in the New Testament.
God Matt Walsh believes in,
the accuser, the prosecutor. Yeah, the prosecuting attorney. Yeah.
Is not one shared by all Christians, at least according to him. In his 20.
But I mean, that's like, right, like that moment. If you want to understand Persona, which I mean, I don't know. I found my old Persona 2 save thing, so I might be getting back into that pretty soon, right? But like, if the whole people brought up Shin Megami Tensei earlier, obviously the spin-off series Persona is highly popular, especially when you get into Persona 4 and 5, right? But the whole idea of where it starts off with, which is like Philemon and he whose name I can't really pronounce, right? It's Nyarl, something with a Nyarl in it. I don't even know how to pronounce it right. But like that whole thing with Philemon and like him, like they make a bet. Like that's what you find out in the end of Persona 2 Innocent Sin, is that all this stuff that was going on that, cost Tetsuya, like, his best friend, is like just some sick bet between the two of them. I don't know. I haven't finished Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, so I don't really know if it goes any deeper than that. But
2020 book, Church of Cowards, a wake-up call to complacent Christians, he writes,
today, around 70% of Americans claim to be Christian.
My understanding of the biblical Satan is he's like a Redditor. He's like a Redditor. Well, actually.
Christian. This number represents a marked decline, but the problem is not the decline in professed believers. If we had simply lost 10 or 20%, but still we had 70 who were really and truly on fire with the faith, there would be far less cause for concern. But the problem with the 70% is that it is not really 70%. The 70% is mostly composed of the sort of Christians who cannot be readily distinguished from atheists.
He then decries how Christians in America...
I always used to say that, like, right? I always used to, like, I thought it was funny because, like, I grew up in Christianity and I knew a lot of Christians, and they're the kind of people that if they were ever in a situation where somebody was like, actually, like, an angel came down to me and blah, 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 or, like, anybody who had, like, an experience, like, that is, like, metaphysical, like, they would rightly be regarded as maybe, having a, mental health issue, right? They're not, they're people that'll, like, they'll be like, yeah, I'm Christian. Well, what they mean is that they're like down with the church and the community around the church, and they're going along to get along, right? I don't think that they, even like people in my family, like I can remember, like they didn't seem to be like the kind of people that were like, yes, like the God is up in heaven and he made earth, he made humans, and he, there was like, they don't literally believe in it, right? Because it's some pretty wild stuff to literally believe in. In fact, I would purport that you can't believe in Christianity. If you think Christianity is the Bible and you take it literally, right in Genesis chapters 1 and 2, you get a contradiction, an unavoidable contradiction. Those two chapters, those first chapters of the Bible, first chapters of the Torah, of the Tanakh and of the Christian Bible, right? And they don't agree with each other. You can't resolve them, right? They talk about a different order of creation, right? You got to say, like, one of them is, the best you can do is say that one of them is right and the other one is wrong. Realistically, like, right, it wasn't supposed to be about literal truth. I think that these are stories that, like, that people shared, and I don't know, like, who's to say that they were ever taken, like, 100% literally face value, right? But yeah, sometime in the 1800s, this really literal minded Christianity arose, where you get this idea of, like, the Bible was written by men, but those men were divinely inspired, and God was like, they were like trying to write their own thing, and God was like, no, you're gonna write it like this. God was like moving their hand and stuff, like, right? They were divinely inspired, so everything that they say is like unquestionable. And
God become too permissive.
I
and
know,
don't take
weird
their faith
thing.
serious.
When you really think about Christianity, like, right, I grew up in Christianity, and like, to me, like, other religions were weird, but when I really think about it, Christianity's got to be like one of the weirdest religions out there, doesn't it? Jose always brings it, his analysis of the 90s sitcom Dinosaurs. Oh, Dinosaurs. That was like it was like the Muppets, but with dinosaurs. The anthropomorphic, or like more like one of those 80s like puppet movies like Dark Crystal, but with dinosaurs, right? Anthropomorphic Dinosaurs was also good. I worship Belfoger. Am I pronouncing that right? Probably not. I agree with that. Nobody's actually believing these things. They are using it for other more modern social ends. So many internal contradictions. These days, God was handling them. Oh yeah. God was definitely like, well, it's like if you get taught to hit a baseball or like swing a golf club by somebody that like comes up behind you and like literally like like right. It's like that sort of thing, right? What if the Bible is just the Lord of the Rings of its day? Yo, what if? Were they like full-size costumes? They were in Dinosaurs? I don't know. I feel like I've seen like 2 scenes from that show.
Enough. The book even opens with a hypothetical.
And one of them is a baby hitting people with a frying pan. Like a baby dinosaur is like hitting people with a frying pan.
Scenario of a group of heathens invading America and being shocked to find out it isn't the Christian nation they thought it was.
But wait, isn't it just basically like the classic American sitcom but with dinosaurs? It's like The Simpsons kind of, or Family Guy but with dinosaurs.
Walsh sees is the lack of Christianity in America, the type of Christianity he espouses, particularly on issues that animate him. The 3 causes he mentions in Unholy Trinity are abortion, gay marriage, and transgender people. And he believes any real Christian would oppose all 3 things. He comes across as very strong.
Yo, now that's really funny. I was reminded by somebody last night that the Bible not only is the Bible not anti-choice, not only is the Bible not pro-life, right? The Bible's got a recipe for an abortion cocktail, right? In the case that a husband should suspect that his wife, who is pregnant, is not pregnant by him, he may give her a weird, like, I think it's like dirt and water or something like that, and do some kind of Christian. No, I mean it would be like, this was pre-Christianity, so it'd be like, do some kind of like, magic on it, like and then she'll drink it, and if the baby's hers, or if the baby's the husband's, right, no worries, nothing happens, right? But if the baby was conceived by somebody else, right, then there's an abortion takes place, right? Supposedly, according to scripture, if you believe the Bible in its literal word, if you believe that every single word was divinely inspired, that God was like, no, you will write it like this. He was like moving the hand, like they were like, no, I want to write it like this, God. And God was like, no, you're going to write it like this. I am God. I ordain that you shall write, like, right? God's like controlling these people and making them do it. If you believe that stuff, then you believe that God was like, yo, if your wife cheats, you should probably abort the fetus, and here's how to do it with my magical God spell.
Strident and firm in his faith. But it's interesting to contrast how hard Walsh is against Christians he thinks don't measure up, compared to when he speaks to Ben
The dinosaurs is more like Roseanne.
Shapiro about religion.
If you figure out how to love anyone outside of yourself during your life, then I think that's something God can take and work with. And those are little embers of something that he can ignite into a fire, in a good sense.
Oh, that's him talking to Shapiro.
Some important context here is that
anybody think that he really believes that? Like, so what is he saying to actually, you know what? Here's the thing. It's so vague, right? If I know evangelicals, now he isn't exactly an evangelical, right? He's a trad cath, right? He's not evangelical's a little bit different of a creature, but there is a thing, at least in evangelical Christianity, where they support Israel, not because they like Jewish people. No. In fact, they think that 66% of Jewish people, even in the end times, are going to be like destroyed and vanished off to hell in some cataclysmic event. And then the 33% of the Jewish people that are not, they're going to convert to Christianity, right? So that they believe, they like Israel, they support Israel because it fulfills their end time prophecy. It's really weird stuff, right? And there's an alliance between the hardcore Zionist, like Likudnik, type, maybe even more like right wing than Likudniks. There's an alliance between those people, the hard right in Israel, and the hard evangelical right in the United States, and they're both kind of like, in their own minds, they're both kind of using each other. It's a really weird, unholy alliance, I guess.
That Shapiro is Jewish and Matt Walsh's boss, and you can see Walsh's tone become much softer, mumbling something vague about loving other people and giving God something to work with. What he and Shapiro really share is that they happen to be fighting the same enemy. This is how alliances are often forged in right-wing spaces, particularly at right-wing media. It's not about what you fight for, it's about what you fight against. And it's not about what you believe, it's about what you hate. That's not really enough to explain why Matt Walsh's profile has risen to the point where he's more well-known than many other conservative commentary figures. While he's not at the level of Ben Shapiro or even Candace Owens, his name is probably more likely to be recognized than Andrew Klavan or Jake Crane or 75% of the lineup of Glenn Beck's Blaze TV, Walsh's former home. Matt Walsh's broader success can be easily understood by comparing him to one of his Daily Wire.
How is the Blaze doing? Has anybody kept up on the Blaze? I used to have a I think Liability Lefty was had some family that were into the Blaze, right? I don't know what the Blaze is doing right now. I don't know like how popular it is, and I don't really know what demographic that it reaches separate like of the Daily Wire, right? That's kind of like, right, if you don't know who Glenn Beck was, he was, God, think of him as like maybe the Tucker Carlson of his day. Like he was Tucker Carlson, but for the Obama era, and maybe a little bit more into conspiracies than Tucker Carlson. And at some point, he got fired from Fox, and he went off and made his own network. And Glenn Beck is just a profoundly weird dude. I don't know how to explain him.
Our colleagues, the somehow even less talented Michael Knowles.
He's the one who formed The Blaze. There's Michael Knowles!
If anyone knows who Michael Knowles is,
who could have had an amazing career in gay porn had he wanted to.
It's because of comments he made back at CPAC in March of 2023 when he called for the eradication of transgenderism.
Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology at every level.
This statement is a very clear.
That's a weird pan to the crowd. Like the crowd, like I don't know how to read those women's faces, or the people in the crowd, right? Like some people were kind of like looking around and like just like didn't want to be there.
Example of getting his
Glenn Beck gives me serial unaliver / as
possible.
Definitely some bad vibes on Glenn Beck.
Calling for genocide without being explicit about it.
Like, look, I'm not going to make any claims about Glenn Beck because I don't know anything, right? All I'm saying is that searching the crawl spaces in his house might yield some interesting results. That's all I'm saying.
The implication is clear, though. To remove trans people from public life, it raises the obvious question of what happens to the people who say being trans is a core part of their identity? The answer...
But what do I know, Chad? I have the personality of 100 grade Sandpaper. Or 100 grit.
At least looking at historical examples, tends to be murder or displacement. In other words, genocide. These comments are genocidal in character, even if they aren't an explicit call for genocide. The grotesque nature of these comments aside, what this briefly did was tell the world that Michael Knowles exists. Looking at the headlines for this story, we can see pretty clearly that most people weren't aware of who this guy was, even though he had been hosting a show for the Daily Wire since 2017 at this point.
CPAC speaker calls for eradication of transgenderism, and somehow claims he's not calling for elimination of transgender people.
CPAC speaker sparks alarm with call for transgenderism to be eradicated.
To be fair, you could probably say that about any right-winger's crawl space.
CPAC speaker calls for eradication of transgenderism. Crowd goes wild.
As a fun aside, when I released my video on the Daily Wire's Terror on the Prairie, I put a black bar over Michael Knowles' face in the thumbnail to see if anyone would notice. I didn't.
Wait, who's that last? Is that Jeremy Boring? Who's the guy to the right of Michael Knowles?
See a single comment mention that. Michael Knowles has been trying to break through the noise of conservative commentary for years, and in spite of the financial resources behind him, he's had very little success. The only way he captured anyone's attention at all was to embrace genocidal rhetoric that had the thinnest layer of plausible deniability. This is how Matt Walsh did it too. Matt Walsh wasn't quite as brazen as Knowles, but he has similarly built a brand by demonizing trans people as much as possible. And looking at his history, we can see this has been an issue he's been passionate about for years. And as we saw in the commentary I highlighted earlier, Matt Walsh is not a sophisticated operator, but rather a true believer, so I don't think this is a simple grift. Instead, I think Matt Walsh is someone who is just lucky. To explain this, I have to zoom out a little bit though. There's a helpful tool we'll need to understand called the Overton window. For those who are unfamiliar,
if I'm Sandpaper, it's in the project of building solidarity. Okay, guy next to Mike Knowles is Jeremy Boring indeed. That's what I thought. Yeah, he looks a little different though.
That explains how political discourse exists.
Than I'm used to seeing
on a spectrum that.
Wait. Who is the guy that's like older and he's like bald, gray hair? Oh my god, I don't know my Daily Wire hosts that well, beyond like the changes
over time. What's left-wing today can become right-wing tomorrow and vice versa, depending on a population's general political leaning. The general political sentiments of a population are called the Overton window. Anything outside that window is considered extreme. So if we're talking about the United States, this can usually be split along.
That's like everyone on the Daily Wire. Like he's the one that like when they have their like round table, their show where it's like all the Daily Wire people there in one place. He's like the one that leads the discussion. I can't remember what his name is though.
Party lines, though it's possible to be further to the left or right in either party and still be part of mainstream political discourse. But if you go too far, say being an anarchist or an open white nationalist, you fall right out of the Overton window and typically have your voice marginalized. This isn't a value judgment, by the way, just a statement of how this window works. Anarchists are cool and interesting people. White nationalists are scum, though, and I am judging them for being terrible. If I were to place Matt Walsh on this spectrum, we'd probably put him somewhere around here, particularly if we're talking about trans issues. And keep in mind, this is an image of commonly accepted political discourse, not personal feelings or subtext.
I feel like we're being way too generous to Matt Walsh. Like, well, like if you talk about how he's perceived, yeah, sure, put him there, right? Put him there. But like how his actual beliefs are, there's a lot of his mask that has not come off yet. There's a lot of his beliefs that he's not super open about, right? And you know, in terms of he is open about being a dominionist. He is open about being a Christian nationalist. He just kind of downplays it. So you know that there's like a funnel to bring people in that aren't necessarily cool with that right away.
Text of the figure we're talking about. So dog whistles and masks, sadly, are in play, even if you're someone who can spot them. They work, and that's why people use them. And sadly, anti-trans rhetoric is broadly accepted on the right wing, so long as you aren't too obvious with the calls for genocide. You notice Matt Walsh is just on the side of acceptability when it comes to anti-trans rhetoric. He'll get pretty close to that line.
Yeah, good point. He hasn't really elucidated, Jose hasn't elucidated right here the way that American political discourse is very right-shifted compared to the rest of the world.
Making a lot of extreme statements, but he's savvy enough to couch it in a plausible deniability that keeps him from falling outside the Overton window of discourse. There are dozens of political commentators being bankrolled by millionaires and billionaires trying to influence the discourse. Most of them don't succeed because their talking points don't animate people enough. There are lots of reasons for this, and it varies from person to person, but the short version is that their particular niche doesn't animate enough of the base. Matt Walsh happened upon the anti-trans discord with his What is a Woman movie. He'd been talking about trans people for years, but this key success made him the face of a major culture war issue. It's not just that he's anti-trans, but he's anti-trans in a way where he gets as close to the line as possible while appearing not to cross it. Matt Walsh's success exists entirely because of the moment he finds himself in. And getting...
Well, I mean, like, and speaking of funnels, like I said, the What is a Woman movie is done in a, like, pseudo-Socratic, like, with a pseudo-Socratic method where he's trying to minimize his viewpoint on the situation. He's trying to concentrate on showing what he disagrees with in the worst light possible. And so therefore, the people that come into the Matt Walsh funnel are often coming in on this video, and they're missing his messed up rants about like Dylan Mulvaney. They're missing like how hateful that this guy is, right? Because he's not showing it in this movie. This movie is edited to show him as a happy warrior, as a cheerful, interlocutor who just wants to understand, who's open, who is willing to listen, and if somebody makes a good argument, he'll believe them. But these SJWs just don't have any good arguments for him, so he's forced to come home to his wife and open a jar of pickles for her to find out what a woman truly is, which is somebody who needs him to open the pickle jar.
Very lucky with that movie. In this way, pushback against him ironically keeps him relevant.
It's Andrew Klavan. Thank you, Chad Alpha.
Were a little more settled in people's minds, and anti-trans sentiment were more commonplace, he would lose relevance and no one would care about him. And if it were less hospitable to be anti-trans publicly, then he would be shunned as a pariah and would similarly lose his position. He needs to be in this extreme position to have any sense of relevancy. And while he is relevant and popular, he can be used to animate the political base, which can be used to fuel political change. While the far right may not be in danger of going left, they sometimes need to be motivated to vote and organize for various causes, so they need to be riled up with hot-button issues. This is what makes Matt Walsh valuable in the right-wing media space. It's not the value of his commentary being transformative, it's that he happens to hate the right people at the right time in the right way that can be used to mobilize political change. Or at least, that's the assumption by the people who finance him. This is how Matt Walsh is useful. And just to be super clear, Matt Walsh didn't invent hating trans people, and in the grand scheme of things, his critiques are no more interesting or compelling than any other bigot. He just happened to come up with a catchy slogan for it. And he managed to stretch out that one glib question into a movie. And that's how someone can make a lucrative career, living just on the border of acceptable political discourse. In other words, Matt Walsh's immorality is incredibly lucky. Looking at the impact of anti-trans rhetoric,
one might even say immorally lucky.
Get a sense of the feelings Walsh is tapping into. Opinion polls regarding transgender people and trans issues varies quite a bit. In a recent Washington Post poll conducted with the KFF, they found anti-trans legislation was quite popular, particularly when it comes to certain types of gender-affirming care for trans kids. An excerpt from that article reads, nearly 7 in 10 adults said they oppose allowing children ages 10 to 14 access to medication that stops the body from going through puberty, and nearly 6 in 10 oppose giving 15 to 17-year-olds access to hormone therapy. There was, however, majority support for gender-affirming counseling or therapy, with more than 6 in 10 supporting this for both age groups.
Okay, so check that out. Now that's an ignorant, view. That's showing the ignorance of the American people, right? They're saying they support trans kids, but that they think that puberty blockers are somehow this which is basically standard of care, right? That's what that's what the medical establishment has come up with as what is the best way to treat somebody who identifies as trans at that age, right? And it's taking into account that on the other side of 18 they might feel differently, so it's giving them a treatment that is reversible if need be, but also understanding that most of the people that undergo that treatment are not going to want to reverse that, are not ever going to change their mind about wanting to transition, right? So, but when you take ignorant, and I'm saying ignorant in terms of they're ignorant of a very niche field of medicine, a very specific set of standards of care, right? And they think that supporting trans kids means allowing them access to therapy, right? That it's that there aren't really trans kids, there's confused kids, and that you're gonna figure out the confusion through therapy or something like that. So it's not people that are necessarily, although a lot of them are, bad intention towards trans people, but it's people that are profoundly ignorant and the last people in the world that you want making an impact on standard of care. When you politicize medicine, you are doing a vast harm, right? Because the people who understand a particular field of medicine, especially, one as kind of niche as this, are a select few, right? You bring in people that understand what's going on. They understand the research, they understand the science, they understand the clinical practice. That's a lot of knowledge to have. There's not many people that have that knowledge. But then what you do when you're Matt Walsh is you appeal to, let's let the ignorant people decide. Does this sound like what you want to be doing? Now check out what happens though with framing. And this is why I always emphasize framing. This is why I think framing is so important. This is why I don't let people get away with playing along with right-wing word games like transgenderism, thinking about transgenderism or talking about biological males or all that shit. They want to frame it in a certain way because they can get the response that they want. But when you frame it in a different way, watch what happens.
Looking at other polling, for instance, a poll conducted by PBS NewsHour shows different results. In this case, the question being asked is, do you support legislation that criminalizes providing gender-affirming care for minors? The results in this poll was that 54%.
So now all people really understand is this, gender-affirming care. They don't know what that looks like. They don't know what that means. And when you ask them specifically this kind of care, they're going to react badly. They're gonna puberty blockers. That sounds pretty drastic. Yeah, try being a trans kid. You need a drastic intervention there. In order to not have to go through a puberty that aligns you, physically and through secondary sexual characteristics and in so many other ways with a gender that you don't identify as, right? But people don't understand that. That's why they shouldn't really be making these decisions at that level of granularity. But when you zoom out a little bit to where they actually understand, okay, do we support the idea that some kids could be trans and could get some gender affirmation care? Well, that sounds okay. Like 54% oppose legislation criminalizing that, right? And yeah, they are making inroads here. They are making inroads.
Percent.
Oh, also look at this. There is this. So wait, 65, 73, 90. So there was 7% here that were undecided. April 2021. Now we're looking at what? We're looking at 3%, right? So they cut the undecideds in half. They have gotten more of these people that oppose to support, right? They have made inroads, right? But when you couch the terminology like this, you do have the majority of people opposing these kinds of restrictions.
Opposed the bans, while 43% supported them. This comparison was made in an article for The Stranger by Alex Corin, a journalist and researcher on transphobia.
Now that's a really strange. We're talking about a monthly. I'm trying to remember The Stranger. Yeah, it's like a monthly, it used to like tabloid sized periodical from I think Seattle, and it was alt media. It was alt news. It was, it was like, it was the kind of publication which during the Iraq War would have had had covers maybe talking about, warning against going to war, advocating against that, right? So that's the kind of when the whole of the media was like, we got to support our boys and go to Iraq, somehow involved with this 9/11 stuff, even though they weren't, right? The majority of mainstream media was just like on board for that war, right? The Stranger was one of these like local alt publications that was not, right? But don't put it in a box too fast, right? Because when we're talking about The Stranger, we're also talking about the place that people like Jessie Singal, and if you know that name, that is an anti-trans journalist, people like Katie Herzog, pioneer of the detransitioner narrative, right? They came up from The Stranger, right? The editor-in-chief of The Stranger actually has a lot of skeletons in his closet as far as transphobia goes. He's not known as like a transphobe, and hopefully he's not like living, in an anti-trans way. But yeah, like there's if some of his advice columns ever pop up from the mid-2000s, Dan Savage is going to have some explaining to do. So The Stranger is not exactly a friendly publication to trans people all in all, right? But Washington Post polling on trans issue misses the most important question. This is from 2023. I'm guessing, you got kind of a different staff here at The Stranger in 2023. Stranger is it's a weekly, I'm sorry, I said monthly, it's a weekly from Seattle. It's like the Village Voice, free weekly. If your town, in your town, it broke down. Well, Dan Savage was like the editor. Also, Katie Herzog and Jessie Singal. And, you got this strain of like what I will call like self-hating lefties, right? That's the defining feature of The Stranger for me, right? Is these people, they're lefties, but they want to show you they're not like other lefties, right? And hopefully some of those people who grew out of that, I don't know how Dan Savage, if Dan Savage is different these days, but definitely Katie Herzog and Jessie Singal, as they've moved on to other publications, have continued to get worse, right? And they made a home for that. They made a home for that. They saw it as being contrarian. They don't want to. They're not like the other liberals, and they want to show us that by platforming these detransitioner narratives. So not entirely a friend of the trans community traditionally. Maybe at this point maybe there's too much pressure for an alt weekly like The Stranger, and even they've got some. I'm sure there's some good reporting there too.
She highlighted how this poll from the post-NKFF suffers from issues similar to polls on abortion, how questions are asked on polls matter and results shift accordingly. She brings up another point of comparison. In a Mason-Dixon poll in Kentucky, there was an even more pronounced result when it was asked, would you support or oppose a proposed Kentucky law that would allow the state to overrule parents' decision to obtain certain health care for their transgender?
So that's making it explicit that what this legislation does is overrules parental rights. Now that's terrible that in order to get these kind of numbers, like even in Kentucky, you have to put it that way, because it should be about the kids. It should be about the individual undergoing the care. It shouldn't be this, but in the United States, there's a tendency to view one's children as one's property. And so by appealing to that, by appealing to the idea that the parents are the sovereign of their children's childhood, right? They're the monarch. They're the regent of their kid's childhood, right? They're able to get these numbers. So when you put it in the sense that you're overruling parents' decisions, they say no. But that is actually what these laws do, right? These trans care for certain age laws, they're not just like impacting, does the kid have the right to do this on their own? They're impacting, does the parent have the right to procure this kind of care for their kid? And you got 71% in Kentucky when you put it in those terms, affirming that right, not of the kids, but of the parents.
Teenager, such as certain medications that can regulate the onset of puberty. In this case, 71% opposed the legislation and 21% supported it. As Corin describes in her article, rather than just throw certain polls out and hold up the ones we want, looking at all of this information reveals to us that what matters to people is who decides in these issues. While people may oppose certain types of gender-affirming care personally, that does not necessarily reveal any desire for the state to intervene and prevent parents from deciding what's best for their child. And
that's what's at stake.
Still more polls that reveal a general fatigue over trans issues being emphasized.
Now, this is an interesting thing, right? This is interesting. This idea that and Hassan has kind of, alluded to this, right? Most Americans are not pro-trans, are not anti-trans, but are kind of tired of talking about trans people, right? And although that's not great, because you'd like to see more compassion, you'd like to see people actively, wanting to protect trans people, it also shows that there is a fatigue for the anti-trans stuff too. Businesses support LGBTQ people. Your state should try to punish the business, attract that business, or neither. So with MAGA Republicans, you got 74% saying business can support or oppose LGBT people. I don't care. And even within the MAGA Republicans, you got 52% that say that, right? You do have 39% say punish the business, but you have a majority still not wanting the state to intervene.
Sized in political discourse. Here's an excerpt from the website Roll Call about one recent poll from Data for Progress. When asked,
so the question I pose to you, chat, is there a value in pointing out the right wing's fixation on trans people and making them pay for that politically, right? Is there a point to that? Is that a useful tactic, right? Because what we really want is for society to recognize that trans people are oppressed, and to want to do something about that oppression. But with increased awareness of trans people, instead of that, we've gotten increased anti-trans sentiment. And so, is there a utility to trying to like harness the fact that most people don't understand trans people and don't really have a strong opinion either way, and they think, as much as they might think it's weird for us to say, hey, trans kids need to have access to puberty blockers, they also think that it's weird for the Republicans to obsess about, like, well, I want for my high school sport, I want somebody going through and inspecting genitals to make sure that there's no transgenders playing in the in the women's league, right? I don't know. It's an interesting question.
About the more than 400 pieces of legislation working their way through state houses aimed at limiting the rights of transgender and gay people in America.
Okay, so what do we have? Top line Democrat, independent. What does top line mean? Is that like the aggregate? Anybody know what top line refers to? That's a weird way to phrase that, right? But anyway, top line, I'm assuming that means the aggregate, like everybody that you asked, right? 64% say there is too much legislation. Politicians are playing political theater and using these bills as wedge issues. Democrats, 72%, Independents, 65%, Republicans, 55%. 78% of people who know a trans or non-binary trans person, agree that there's too much legislation aimed to limit the rights of transgender or gay people in America, and 57% of people who don't know a trans person, right? This is the right amount of legislation. Seems to be highest in the Republicans with 33%, but pretty around 20% with everyone else, and then don't know. So I'd like to see Dwayne Wade advocate on morning shows about fathering a trans that's another idea, right? Featuring trans parents, since people seem to be moved by the idea of trans parents not being able to get their kids the care that they feel like they need. You also, though, have narratives where people will, and I saw this, we're not going to cover this because it's an incredibly small streamer on Twitch. And as a practice, I don't, I don't show small streamers that I disagree with for various reasons. But they were convinced that trans kids were the product of parents seeking social media clout through implanting these ideas of transness in their kids. They couldn't believe that the kid had, their own personality, their own desires, their own identity, right? They couldn't imagine that. It's got to be the parents. It's got to be the parents. And like the parents either like, they're like, oh, well, we've got a son, but we really want a daughter. Maybe if we could just like, buy a bunch of Barbies and like encourage this and be like, oh, do you want to play with nail polish? We could get, I don't know. It's the weirdest fucking, like, I don't know how anybody thinks this, but I sat there and watched a streamer elucidate that he thinks that parents are grooming their kids, like into, you use those words too, right? Are pushing the identity on their kids somehow, right? And it's the wildest thing to think that like, trans parents of trans kids have it so hard, have so many challenges to deal with. The idea that somebody would want to take that upon themselves, would want to push their child in that direction somehow, it's just wild to me. But yeah, there are people who believe that.
64% of respondents, including 55% of Republicans, sided with the statement, "This is too much legislation, politicians are playing political theater and using these bills as a wedge issue," compared with 25% who agreed with the statement, "This is the right amount of legislation, politicians are dealing with a real danger that needs to be addressed." This figure rose to 78% among respondents who know a transgender person. And that last part is especially interesting because just knowing a transgender person seems to have a dramatic impact in all polling for supporting transgender people.
Oh yeah, the Hassenfelder thing. Yeah, TikTok makes children trans because it shows them how cool. Yeah, yo, like that's so wild. That's so wild to think that because there's a little bit of an inkling of acceptance of trans people, that they jump from that to thinking, oh, it must be really cool. It must be like you're like a loser. You're on the outside of your social situation in school, and they're like, I'm trans, and all of a sudden people are like, yes. They lift you up over their heads and they carry you around, and they're like, art, you know, like they like you now, right? That's not how it works. That's not how it works. That's not even close.
General, and also underscores the importance of representation. Seeing who these people are and the struggles.
Okay, so the top line is the result of how the aggregate. That's what I thought. That's so that's like everybody all together and then they break them down into Democrat, Republican, Independent, knows a trans person, doesn't know a trans person, to tease out those details.
They go with creates greater degrees.
I had a huge fight with my childhood friend because I found out that he actually believes this. Oh God, yeah.
To sympathy and support. Other results show that the younger generation is generally pro-trans rights, with some predicting a massive change on the topic within 10.
Young adults, wait, what are young adults defined as here? Young adults, Democrats, more likely to say, okay, so all ages, okay, so we got it broken down by, okay, so, yeah, You have a plurality of 18 to 29-year-olds saying that acceptance of trans people has not gone far enough. In all adults, it's almost equal. When you get to 30 through 49, it's slightly more think that there needs to be more trans acceptance. But then look at this. Now, is this boomers? Boomers are like, hey, what's up, Fighting Gale? Finally, your comment went through. Oh my God, I'm sorry. YouTube is being a weird sussy baka to me for some reason as far as my comments. You're not the only one whose innocuous comment has been inexplicably suppressed. But yeah, so wait, 50, is that where boomers are? Or is this still Gen X? I mean, if I were to get, yeah, because this is Gen X right here, right? 30 to 49, and then... Wait, is that millennials and Gen X, sort of? I don't know. It doesn't really cut off at the generations, right? But yeah, once you get to 50, that's when it's like, oh, transgender acceptance has gone too far. Back in my day, there was two genders, right? Republicans, oh my God, 66% think there's too much trans acceptance. Democrats think 59%, a majority. So you do have majorities. A majority of Republicans who think there's too much trans acceptance, and a majority of Democrats who think that there's not enough. But everywhere else, we see at most a plurality, and that's in the younger age group. I would love to see if they actually opened up like I don't know 14 through 17, or to see what Gen Xers are in their late 50s. Oh, so this is all like Gen X then. So yeah, there we go. Like Gen X is where it starts to go rotten, I guess.
10 years. All that.
When the year of the study, you mean? A study from this year, millennials are people born 81 to 95. Oh my God, I can't do that math.
Said, it's also true that many people are still ignorant regarding trans issues and remain susceptible to messengers like Walsh. That's part of what makes him...
And that's what's so dangerous. That's why I stood up to Dylan Burns for trans rights, right? That's why it was so important, is that I knew that it was crucial when you have a naive audience that's like well-intentioned, as I believe that Dylan's audience was. Generally well-intentioned, generally want what's best for trans people, but profoundly ignorant. And you expose them to a transphobe like Rob Noor, who's going to just implant them with all kinds of tropes. You have a duty as a panel host to at the very least keep him from just like being like, you get a trope and you get a trope and you get a trope and you get a trope. Tropes for everyone. Like like Rob Noor's like the Oprah of anti-trans tropes, and Dylan's just letting him go off, right? That's why I took my stand, right? I feel more vindicated about that decision every single day as time goes on. I feel like it's more and more people are waking up to the fact that NCC was right.
Particularly valuable. One funny thing I noticed while watching Matt Walsh was he often fought back against other figures on the right when they would criticize an emphasis on the culture wars.
Okay, understand this. If you are doing this whole focus on the economy, not the culture war thing, you are repeating the same talking point that the GOP establishment has used for 40 years. It's because the Republican Party, who are supposed to be ostensibly the leaders of the conservative movement, for decades now, they've been saying, the culture doesn't matter. All that matters is the economy and foreign policy. Let's worry about that. And so they surrendered the culture to the left, and now here we are.
The defensiveness and lack of historical literacy here is pretty funny. The right has been harping about culture war issues for decades.
Like that data kind of flies in the face of what I know. Like my understanding is that like boomers are where it starts to go off. Millennials are 27 to 42. Gen X, then 43 to 55 or something? And then boomers are, so boomers would be over 55. Yeah, so it doesn't actually break down along generational lines, that data.
They brought them up with gay marriage, prayer in school, and all sorts of religiously themed topics I would assume Matt Walsh would know something about. Obviously, what Matt Walsh is concerned with here is sliding into political irrelevancy. Without the culture wars and specifically anti-trans rhetoric, no one would care about what this guy has to say, so he has to cling on to it for dear life. But the reason there's a pushback against culture war issues by the right, at least when it comes to trans issues, is that it's a very poor political performer. In a Substack post from a user named Etingermentum, titled The Modern Electoral History of Transphobia, we get a lengthy breakdown on how many times transphobia has failed at the ballot box in the United States, most recently in the 2022 midterm elections. What much of the polling highlighted early in this video fails to capture, and something I wish people would understand broadly about any opinion poll, is that just because someone feels a way about an issue doesn't mean that that issue will influence how they vote, or how they'll even politically organize. For example, if ketchup had a 90% approval rating and a politician said they were going to ban it, it probably wouldn't influence the election if voters were convinced that that same politician had a plan that would revitalize the economy for working people. Issues like the economy are far more important in elections than what you put on your French fries. But that speaks to something that Et Incrementum brings up in their article. Here's an excerpt.
While general public apathy towards the issue means that voters are exceedingly unlikely to vote for Republicans because of anti-trans messaging, as has been extensively demonstrated, it also means that politicians who pass anti-trans laws are not likely to face significant electoral pushback over it.
And that would explain why so many anti-trans laws are being passed in red states with limited pushback. People are generally not motivated by transphobia, whether it's to take part in the transphobia or to stand against it. And while that's great for the former, it's tragic for the latter. These are issues that people should want to take a stand for, to stand up for the humanity of people. And the saddest part of these polls are the people who just seem willing to not care. And so even if someone like Matt Walsh has limited appeal, it's important for people to know what sort of hate a ghoul like this is spreading, because even if it won't swing a federal election, it's still something that impacts any transgender person living in a red state, or any transgender person more broadly who's been a victim of harassment or a hate crime. If anti-trans legislation isn't going to move the needle electorally, it does raise the question of why do it at all? And the answer seems to be, according to Antinicrementum, is that some of these people are just true believers. Here's another excerpt from the article.
Much like the old demographics as destiny theory that captured the Democratic Party in the 2000s and 2010s, anti-trans, or more broadly, anti-woke lore is the right kind of story for the right political class at just the right time.
I swear I thought of using that phrase to describe Matt Walsh before reading this article, but it does speak to how his success really is a product of very fortunate timing. And while a lot of this is being...
I don't know. My prediction for Matt Walsh is, if you want to see his future, look at how things turned out for Anita Bryant. She had some success early in opposing gay rights and demonizing gay people, but is a villain of history, as will be Walsh.
Being presented in this video as how it impacts electoral politics, I do want to stress there are many other real threats impacting transgender people outside of legislation. The frightening number of hate crimes, including murder, is fostered by anti-trans rhetoric spread by the likes of Walsh. I'm not entirely sure he's savvy enough to be aware that his hobby horse has no real electoral heft. But if he is, that's even worse, because instead of being a willing tool of the right-wing media ecosystem that serves as a PR wing for the Republican Party, he's instead using this platform he's lucked into to make as much money as he can, while spreading hatred that actively harms transgender people. There is a bit of a silver lining here in that one-trick ponies rarely have any staying power. While transphobia will be a long-term struggle, the fight against mediocre bigots like Matt Walsh probably won't be as long. So the whole point of this video, I guess, is to remind everyone that the fight for trans rights is about more than this guy. And while it's important to oppose him...
Yeah, they still have their money. Yeah, and like I was thinking about this, right? Because like with Alex Jones, he made a lot of money off of demonizing the victims of Sandy Hook. But at the end of the day, like InfoWars is basically in hock, right? I mean, he can do whatever he wants to, and he's not going to make any more money off of InfoWars. Like he's never going to pay off the settlement that he's got. Now, Matt Walsh is different, right? Because it's like he's talking about a class of people. The only way that he's going to run into what Alex Jones ran into is when he gets specific and when he loses himself in hate. The one time that I think that Matt Walsh really started to jump the shark was with Dylan Mulvaney. That's when he got demonetized off of YouTube. That's when things got south. And understand, right? This isn't just like a YouTuber getting demonetized, right? Like Humanist Report didn't know what the hell, he got demonetized for. Matt Walsh did. I am convinced, right? Because Matt Walsh is part of the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is a big enough content creator, a big enough MCN/client, right? They're running ads on YouTube, right? And so because of that, he has access to exactly what the line is, right? Just like my confusion over whether, if I streamed on Twitch today and on YouTube, would I have been banned, right? I didn't really want to find out, right? But Matt Walsh can find out exactly where the line is, right? The fact that he crossed the line with Dylan Mulvaney just shows how much hate he had. And remember, it was Dylan's expression of trans euphoria, of trans joy, of being, happy about the way that she looked in a dress, that just got to him in a way that is impossible. So I think that, like, remember, to the extent that you can enjoy your life, to the extent that you can love yourself, to the extent you can be happy in who you are, that's what gets these people's goat. And this got him demonetized, all right? So that's important to remember.
The real problem is the moment we find ourselves
seeing a pie in Walsh's future. Wait, like Sweeney Todd?
When trans people are continuously under threat. Going back to the polling I mentioned earlier, most people aren't motivated by trans issues. Not caring is perfectly fine in a better world. Letting people live how they choose without making your business is a very good and valid position. But right now we live in a world that's hostile to trans people, and that threat is multiplied for a number of intersectional identities. So it's not just trans men and trans women who are under threat, but also non-binary people, transgender people who are POCs or have disabilities, or just any transgender person who might need some.
The other X factor is the extent to which other members of the LGBT community realize that it's not just us who is, it's not just trans people whose freedoms are on the line in this situation. It's ultimately theirs. That Matt Walsh's and the likes view on society is a Christian dominionist one that has no room for the LGBT community. They're attacking trans people right now because it works, but they're not going to be happy with that. Yeah, like Anita Bryant. Oh, getting pied. Sorry, I completely missed that, Chat Alpha.
Somebody to fight alongside them. So I guess the message I hope you all take away from this is that when fighting for the rights of others, it's less about fighting against a certain man and more about fighting in a certain moment. A big thanks to all the trans creators who lended their voice to this video. I hope you all check out their channels listed below. Once upon a time, I told myself I would never make a video discussing.
Okay, so there's the awesome video again. This is Jose. Like what? Like on Twitter, I think he's like Jose, not Jay, or something. Great video essayist, great content, and definitely worth a follow. Let me see if I can give you that YouTube link once again. There we go. Jose Bird is at Jose Bird. Okay. That is Jose's channel. So we've got one more video for today on YouTube, and let me like we're gonna watch Jessie Gender's video about J.K. Rowling and her connection to Posey Parker / Kelly Jean. What, I cannot ever Kunkel. I can't remember her last name. It's something with a K. Kelly Jean whatever, right? But like before we do that, I just wanted to I touch base, say hi chat, how is it going? It feels kind of weird to only be streaming on YouTube. Obviously, YouTube is traditionally the quieter of the two chats, and that makes sense because people on YouTube, like YouTube's a video format. And what do you do when you watch a video? You kick back. You kick back, you listen to the video, you listen to what I'm saying, you listen to what Jose is saying, right? Even though this is a live stream, a lot of people kind of take it as a video. They're used to interacting with things as a video. So, I mean, like, feel free to do that if you want to. You can lurk all you want, but I appreciate it all the more when you talk, and I appreciate it even more when you hit that like button, because that is the one measure of feedback YouTube uses to decide, do I want to bring more people into this live stream, or am I going to let her stream just die? And that's a real question at this point with the, potential loss of Twitch. My mind is going a million different ways at once. What happened to Twitch? So for anybody who got here late, what happened to Twitch is that Twitch has just given us all an email, all of us Twitch creators, we got an email, and they said there's been an update to TOS. Take a look, right? When you take a look, the update is we're going to restrict your sponsorship, right? So, I've gotten sponsorships through Stream Elements in the past through a number of different ways, right? Those are, when I promote a product while I'm doing my content, usually like in between. And it, I get paid for that, right? So that's one way that I make streaming viable. I don't know what Twitch's idea is, what their plan is. Some people have suggested that they want to be the ones to give the sponsorships. They haven't sent me any offers for sponsorships. I get them from Stream Elements. I get them from Stream Labs. I do not get them from Twitch themselves. So I don't know what they expect me to do, but they've restricted the ways that you can do sponsored, content on Twitch. They've also restricted or made more specific a restriction against dual streaming, which in the past we were always, this unified chat became unified chat because we had Twitch chat and we had YouTube chat, and we wanted them in one place, right? And that was here. But now I was under the impression that partners, so a partner is somebody that like I'm an affiliate on Twitch, right? Partners above affiliate. I was under the impression that partners could not dual stream, but that affiliates could. It turns out that this whole time it's been in my contract that I'm not supposed to do that, at least not on platforms like YouTube. I can do it on TikTok, I can do it on Instagram, which I don't even know. Like, I don't have a Instagram, and I don't do that much on TikTok, so I don't know what like adding a TikTok element to the stream would be like. But I think it would be strange because I think streams on TikTok are generally very different than streams on Twitch or YouTube, right? But they've made it explicit that they don't want me streaming on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So my response to that was to go on Twitch, say, hey everybody, guess what? Stream is on YouTube today. So I brought people, and some of you are from Twitch. Some of you have come over to YouTube for the first time. It's a little bit different. It's not, as oriented towards streaming. Because like I said, YouTube is mainly a video platform. YouTube is mainly like a cool, passive, lurking type of platform. Whereas Twitch is a very active and involved platform where people, will talk to the streamer and interact with the streamer, and there's little things that you can do. You can tell me to to wear cat ears on Twitch. You can tell me to bounce on the trampoline. There's all kinds of fun little things that we do like that. But YouTube is kind of like, okay, let's imagine that there was like a video, but it was a live stream. So it's a little bit of an in-between space, right? But that being said, like YouTube is now, you know, putting far less onerous restrictions on me than Twitch is now. Does this mean that I am no longer streaming on Twitch, that I'm done with Twitch? There's no more Twitch? No. In fact, tonight, right? So just so everybody knows that before we get into our next segment with Jessie Gender, tonight I will be back over there on Twitch, partly to kind of spread the word, partly to kind of let people know what's happening. I don't want people to just like think that I disappeared or that I stopped streaming, but we're going to have to do things different. Like at the very least, like splitting the stream up and doing like a shorter stream on YouTube and a shorter stream on Twitch or something like that until Twitch clarifies its position. I really hope that they do, right? I really hope that people can put enough pressure on them to let them know that, like, look, we can't do Twitch alone. There's a reason for that, right? YouTube makes me discoverable, right? Especially if I do videos on YouTube, especially if I do other things besides streams on YouTube, especially if I take my stream segments and I cut them up into videos, I'm more discoverable. More people can find me. Twitch is terrible for that, right? Basically, the only way that you just get discovered is find some big streamer and kiss their ass and hope that they rage you and give you shout outs and stuff like that. Like, right? It's really kind of messed up. So we need both platforms. There's things that are bad about YouTube too. YouTube does not have its streaming meta figured out. Like Twitch has made a very conducive environment for communities to form, whereas YouTube, it's just kind of people come in and watch stuff, right? And you know, that's fine. Like I'm here to entertain you. I'm here to educate you. I'm here to inform you, right? And you know, that's definitely a role that I play. But what I'd really like is to kind of form a community, form sort of a conscious movement away from some of the mistakes that I feel like have been made in leftist content creation in the past, the ruts that they've fallen into, the dry, desiccated, and tired format of the debate bozos, right? I feel like their time is gone. And I feel like we need to start emphasizing intersectional leftism if we're ever going to build a larger movement. It starts with that base of solidarity, and the debate bozos definitely do not have that, right? So I'm more in the line of creating a community, and in accordance with that, right, I'm going to start to make Patreon more and more of a centralized, like, core of my community. What does that mean? That means that if you're supporting me on Patreon, you're going to get more exclusive content. You're going to get more interaction over there. You're going to get, you know, I'm going to, you know, be more available for Patreon. And that is partly because, like, yeah, like the way that I made my money was through Twitch. Twitch has does a good job of getting kind of communities to form and for people to care about their streamer and to make it financially viable for their streamer. And yeah, you know, even sponsorships, you know, we're a lot more lucrative. We're a lot more available in terms of Twitch streaming than they are for YouTube streaming. So there was like a way forward there. There was a way to sustainably do what I'm doing, and in a way that keeps growing and you know, makes sure that I'm taken care of, that I'm able to keep doing this and that I don't just disappear someday, right? But like now that's all, you know, in question. Like the way that Twitch is doing things is really not conducive to that. So I'm going to have to kind of shift the core of my community over to Patreon. That doesn't mean that you're going to get less here on YouTube. In fact, you're going to get more. Like if anybody's getting shortchanged from this, it's going to be Twitch, but I'm not going to leave Twitch people in the lurch, right? Because I've built a big community over there. I care about people, and I feel like, you know, like I need to, you know, at the very least, be over there and let people know what's going on, and you know, kind of bring more people over to YouTube, and hopefully bring more people over to Patreon, also to Discord, right? Discord's a great place because, like I said, like Patreon is a paid format. Now, like the thing that I need to do on Patreon is make some kind of tier thing, because I want to have like some level of value and interaction available to on Patreon if you just give me like $1, right? Because some people there's some people that like, depending on the situation you're in, like you don't have $5 a month to spare, right? And that's totally understandable to me. So I want to make sure that there's something for the people that can spare $1 a month. There's something that for the people that can spare $5, and there's something a little bit extra for people that can contribute more and kind of make that work like that. But yeah, I will still be here on YouTube. Expect the memberships also on YouTube to contain more value, to contain more exclusive content, because like I am not counting on Twitch subs like paying my bills going forward. I really don't think that that's something that I can totally count on anymore. Yeah, it's exactly what they want to wash their hands of everything. Also, they can manipulate and get streamers to accept worse and worse deals, yes, by eliminating any outside income sources. Yeah, then I don't even know. Like, some people have said that they want to do the sponsorships through Twitch. Well, if you want to offer me sponsorships, offer me a sponsorship. So far, I've not gotten one from Twitch. I've only gotten one from the streaming the software based services like Stream Elements and Streamlabs. I like the chat, but once you are a big channel, it might get more chaotic and it isn't as fun. Are you talking about on YouTube or just in general? Yeah, and that's another reason for the Patreon community to become more of a center. And like I said, I want to make sure to like include people that don't have a lot to be able to contribute, to make sure that they can be involved on, so that there's like a base level of involvement on the Patreon. Also, in addition to that, I would highly recommend that you get involved in the Discord. Our Discord community is starting to really grow. It's starting to get fairly large, and it's also a great place for you to give me feedback, like, right, of like what kind of content that you'd like to see. That is the biggest thing. Stream suggestions. I've got a whole channel on Discord for you to suggest content that you want me to cover. If there's stuff that I'm not covering that I should be covering, right? There's also like, so like when I'm talking about covering stuff, right? I'm talking about streaming, I'm talking about reacting. That's been the majority of the content that I've done so far. As I'm centering YouTube more, I'm realizing that I feel like there needs to be more original content. There needs to be more stuff that's more like just commentary, my ideas, my thoughts, right? That's more that I'm generated rather than just me responding. So you look forward to more of that. Look forward to more videos that are just, like if you've ever seen like a mogul mail video, I guess that's more, the mogul mail is Ludwig's, like Ludwig's like 10-minute videos where he does it all in one take and just kind of talks about something, at random. Mine would be more focused on the kind of content that you're used to from me. So commentary about the leftist content creation sphere, commentary about the political issues, especially as we go into this next political season, and more like that, right? I would love some video content also. Yeah, I've been meaning to get to that for a long time, but because so much of my income was based on Twitch, like the impetus was for me to do reaction content. And I get that leaves something to be desired, right? You're just getting my reaction to things. You're not really getting any of my spontaneous thoughts about things, any of my contributions, any of my ideas. And like, I'm a creative person, right? I am a much more creative person than the react genre has really been allowed. There's things that I want to express that I haven't gotten the chance to express. So with more of a concentration on YouTube, more of a concentration on Patreon, and hey, maybe Twitch will do something, right? Like I said, I'm not giving up hope on that. I'm going to be there tonight, okay? I'm going to be streaming late night on Twitch. I think I'm going to do there's like a Jubilee panel that's supposed to be really a total train wreck. And that's the kind of thing that Twitch really likes. So I'm going to start off with the Jubilee panel. We might do some video games over there too. Twitch is mainly a video game panel. Maybe I should start using it for video games and finish some of these video games that I've left like half done. Like I'm halfway, not even halfway, or actually more than halfway through Persona 2. There's a lot of, kind of games that I'd like to play over there. I got to figure out something, but yeah, the big takeaway is that we're changing things up. YouTube is going to receive increased attention, as will Patreon, and hopefully I'll be able to give you more kind of content and more engagement, and really try to make this feel more like a community, because I feel like I'm engaged in a project. I feel like as a React streamer, I have been at ground zero for the harm that can be done unwittingly to marginalized people by well-meaning content creators, and that's something that really needs to be that really needs to be brought to light. I think there's more and more people whose stomachs are getting turned by the way that somebody like Walsh will react. Against Black people. We'll try to put trans people in their place and tell us that we need him as our edgy boy messiah if we're to have any hope of liberating ourselves, right? I don't think that's right. I think that these kind of liberatory struggles need to be led by the group in question. Who's the best, who's the best, what's the best leadership for the trans rights issue? Trans people. What's the best leadership for, issues of anti-racism? People that experience racism, right? It just makes sense. And that has not been emphasized enough. A lot of people have been sold a brand of leftism that has anti-SJW ideology infused into it. And a lot of people are reacting to that. A lot of people are recognizing that. And a lot of people are tired of that. And they just look around and they don't see the alternative, right? Because if there is an alternative, it's an alternative that's threatening to these people. And these people are doing their darndest to drive those people, to drive the soul bunnies, the Jessie genders, the no comment chicks of the world off the platform, right? You've seen this with Polly. You've seen people come after Polly on Twitch, right? These people are allergic to intersectionality. And we got to do something about that. So yeah. Being your own advocate. Yeah, exactly. Right. You could join Vosh's community and like wait for him to get it through his skull, like that, that he needs to listen to trans people, or you could just go with a trans creator that understands that stuff intuitively and hope that like the increased prominence, right? Because we don't have like, at least in the Twitch space, like I can't think of like trans creators who are that succeed on a great level without doing a lot of ass kissing, without doing a lot of, making cis people feel extremely comfortable. That's just the way that things have gone. And that's true of a lot of different vectors of marginalization. So I'm not giving up. And I don't want you to give up. And that's why I like held back any sort of emotions that I might have had. This hit me like really quick, right? I was ready to go to stream, I was ready to do my thing. And then I get this email from Twitch and I'm looking at this and I'm like, I think they're serious. I think there's some chance that if I dual stream today, I'm getting banned. And that's something that, I don't want to let that happen. But yeah, if this is how Twitch is going to act, then Twitch is not going to be my main thing going forward. I have to change my emphasis. So that's what we're going to try to do. I am going to be there, like I said, later tonight after this stream. I'm going to, take care of some things offline, figure some things out, because there's so much that I have to adjust. There's so much that I have to do differently. There's so much that I have to plan. But I do want to come over there to Twitch, watch that Vice panel, right? That really, it's about abortion, and they've got this like weird like org, right? That is a anti-abortion, pro forced birth, like right, anti-choice organization that calls itself progressive. That says trans rights, gay rights, but also fetus. Yeah, it's some weird stuff. These people are so fucking weird. Oh my God, I'm not supposed to say that word on YouTube. I can say that word all I want on Twitch, but I can't say it on YouTube. That's the one benefit from of Twitch is they'll let me say the F word, right? YouTube really does not like me to say that because we got to be sponsor friendly. We gotta keep our advertisement going, right? This group, right? These people robbed like a medical vehicle to steal wastes from abortion procedures to try to be like, look at this, look at what they're doing, my God, it's super weird. And this is what Jubilee does, right? That organization, now I haven't watched this yet. I've only heard this secondhand, right? This sounds like a psyop to me. This sounds like some kind of weird, like, this is not just like some, like, people got together and like, hey, let's do a progressive, like, anti-abortion group, right? This is designed to make a wedge. This is designed to appeal, to create an anti-abortion, like, you know, ideology within communities that don't really have that ideology, right? This seems like some weird, like, what I'm saying, chat, and when I say PSYOP, understand this. I'm not saying that there's a 3-letter government organization behind this. I don't think it's the government. I don't think it's the government doing this. I think it's think tanks, right? I think that right-wing ideology has had phenomenal success lately, especially considering how they are demographically going down, right? How if you look at the total votes for any election, you're going to see like less votes going to right-wing candidates, and yet they're able to gerrymander their way into power. They're able to maintain that power. They're able to take the courts. They're able to take the state houses. They're able to get the right levers to basically circumvent any form of democracy. And I think they've been encouraged by that. And the brains behind these right-wing movements are think tanks. They are organizations that are well-heeled, have a ton of money from right-wing billionaire creepos, and they're saying, yeah, go out there and like, I don't know, create a pro-life movement among the LGBT community. Well, that's a pretty tall order, but if you give them enough money and if you give them enough planning, I don't want to find out what they can do. So, you know, we'll take a look at that, but I feel like there's got to be somebody that on the left that is looking at this stuff, looking at the big picture and trying to organize as best we can, right? We are at a severe financial disadvantage, but we are also at an ever increasing like numerical advantage, right? The arrow of time may be slow, but it does move generally in one direction. And as more kids are coming up with like LGBT community normalized to them, there's less of a place for transphobia. So I feel like we've got that on our side. What we have to do is leverage that strength to fight against the overwhelming amount of money that's being thrown to stymie these social issues. And it might not even be billionaires that are like, oh yeah, I'm really transphobic, I hate the transes, right? It might not even be about that. Think about that. If they can get us to concentrate on just protecting our right to exist, it stymies our ability, you know, to organize and to create like workers movements, for instance, to fight the the Supreme Court is also going after unions right now. The Supreme Court they're very worried about unions. Cop City just passed in Atlanta, right? The Atlanta City Council approved a ton of money going to a playground for cops to train and to do their little obstacle courses and stuff. They're tearing down they're tearing down like a forest in like a black area of town in order to train more cops, so that the next time that there's an uprising like the George Floyd uprising, they can put it down more easily. That's messed up, right? That is messed up. But there's so much going on right now, and even if these like think tanks, even if these right-wing weird billionaires like aren't necessarily like right super reactionary on every issue, it benefits them to give us as much work as possible, so that that they're able to fight us more easily on the issues that actually hit them in the pocketbook, right? So yeah, that's where we're at. That's what I'm doing. I'm still dedicated to this. I still have a passion for this. This is like the toughest job that I've ever loved. A job that feels sometimes like it's 24 hours on the clock, but I'm doing the best I can. And I'm not gonna let Twitch's like weird and capricious changes of the rules scare me off. I'm in it to win it. I'm here to stay, okay? And I'm here to fight, and I hope you are too. So I just wanted to touch base with chat and everything before going on to our last segment of today, which is Jessie Gender talking about J.K. Rowling, Posey Parker, and the weird TERF, I don't know what you want to call it, the TERF Nazi connection. That's really what we're dealing with. Jessie's been covering this beat like no one else, right? She's really on this stuff. So let's see what she has to say here. yeah, like I just want to let you know what's going on, without making you worried. I know that like life is tough right now for everybody, right? And the last thing I want to do is give you an additional like emotional burden of feeling, you know, responsible for my well-being. I'm gonna have to make some moves. I'm gonna have to do some things. I appreciate every single one of you that supports me. I especially appreciate, you know, people who support me on Patreon. That is, you know, one way that you can make sure that more of the money that you donate is going directly towards me. Actually, YouTube gives me a slightly better cut than Twitch too. So the more Twitch tries to cut me out, the more Twitch tries to take, you know, your sub money and split it 50-50 with me, the more I'm inclined to use other platforms to do my content, because I know that you're not, when you're donating or you know, getting a membership or a Patreon membership or something like that, you are not like thinking, let me make this corporation rich, right? You're thinking, let me buy this chick a coffee because she looks like she could use it. Let me buy this chick, like, you know, a meal because she looks like she could use it, right? And it sucks that like so much of your money is going to these corporations that don't care about me and they don't care about you, and you know, they're just in it to take their cut. So Jessie Gender. So I'm trying to do more of a theme show, like a themed show, right? That is concentrating on a given topic. Today's topic is pride and its detractors. All the people out there that want to take us back to a worse time. Wait, I'm trying to remember where this is. Is it Jessie Gender After Dark? I know I saw this video.
Hey there, you sexy nerd.
Hey there, you sexy nerd. There we go.
Hey there, interwebs. I hope you're all doing well. So we need to quick discuss J.K. Rowling very publicly continuing to defend an anti-trans bigot.
Oh,
who
also noticing new hairstyle for Jessie Gender.
Also pushed anti-Semitic conspiracy.
Cop City will 100% train other cities' cops too. Yeah, that's what they're doing. It's like, it's a Disneyland for cops. It's weird.
Theories.
It's the wrong direction. It's using so much money, right? The money that's going into Cop City is money that needs to be going into the communities, right? If their goal is to prevent crime, how about prevent the conditions that bring about crime, right? How about,
as well as been quite literally supported by far-right neo-Nazi groups, and show how J.K. Rowling's continuing to use her platform to push harm that not only hurts trans people, but also into anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and anti-Semitic harm that ultimately supports far-right Nazis and groups. So let's just quick go over it, but just to say, if you want to know much more detail than I'm going to be able to go into in this unscripted, off-the-cuff discussion, I have discussed all of these dynamics within much greater detail in these videos that are currently on screen, and we'll go much more into the history of J.K. Rowling, Posey Parker, and many others that I'll be touching upon briefly within this video. So just to quick state it, J.K. Rowling
doing industrial racism, destroying the natural beauty of the state, and doing so at the same time. It's so disgusting. Yeah.
Released a statement where she discussed a reporter talking about how J.K. Rowling has defended Posey Parker, who is an anti-trans bigot who runs the quote-unquote Let Women Speak rallies around, you know, the entire world, has done sort of like these rallies all around the world, and they are very expressly anti-trans rallies. And so it's her defending this woman and the allegations made against her that her group is being supported by neo-Nazi groups. Now, this became most obviously recently in New Zealand, where there was a rally that Posey Parker held, which neo-Nazis came in support of, and that literally led a lot of people to finally recognize recognize the connection between the neo-Nazis and anti-trans bigotry, because fascism is ultimately stoked upon, creating sexual anxieties that often express themselves in hatred and anger towards queer people, LGBTQ people generally, women, and transgender people very specifically, and most prominently recently, at least most prominently publicly. This is a very clear connection. There's been a long history of me documenting the connection between far-right groups, fascism, and anti-trans TERF groups like the ones that Posey Parker is the head of. But it is worth discussing even more clearly how J.K. Rowling is continuing, and this is not the first time she's tweeted out support for Posey Parker before, but continuing to get more and more public in expressing her support of Posey Parker specifically, because Posey Parker has not only attacked transgender people, has not only called for cisgender men to enter women's bathrooms with guns to attack and harm transgender people, which I'll show in this clip.
Idea about some of the things that you can do. And men, for once, I'm talking to you. I'm talking about you dads who maybe carry, I think that's what you say. I'm so down with the American lingo. Maybe you carry, maybe you don't. Maybe you consider yourself a protector of women. Maybe you're that sort of man. Maybe you have a daughter.
There's something so disgusting about Posey Parker.
Daughter or a mother or a wife. Maybe you have a sister. Maybe you just have some friends. Maybe you just think women are human and you don't need any absolute connection with them to feel compelled to protect us. I think you should start using women's toilets, men.
As well as numerous other things, but it's also worth pointing out the connection here with Posey Parker, because Posey Parker recently has continued to spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, such as when she went on to a radio show where a reporter was very critical of Posey Parker's views, and Posey Parker took that moment to discuss, bring up this conspiracy theory of, have you heard about these mysterious billionaires funding the anti-trans movement? Which is, if anyone knows about anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, one of the dog whistles for anti-Semitic stories and conspiracy theories is that people will say, well, there's these billionaires, these mysterious elites, quote unquote, who are funding different movements and trying.
And meanwhile, the entire right-wing think tank, ecosystem is funded by billionaires. That's such a weird thing for them to say. But when they say billionaires, the name that's not far behind that is Soros, right? The billionaires that they care about all just happen to be Jewish for some reason. I don't know. It must be a coincidence.
To manipulate people, trying to destroy the cisgender men and turn them into trans women, ruining fertility and things like that, and hurting cisgender women into trans men and ruining the woman's fertility. Sort of why there's a lot of this focus on trans men who have come out as trans men and how they're harming our girls is the way they view trans men. It's because it's this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory of Jewish people trying to dilute the bloodline, dilute the eugenics of the Aryan women. And so these narratives gets created, and it's dog whistled by these things that Posey Parker is stating is there's these billionaires who are funding
dilute the genetics,
the anti-trans movement. And I want to just play you this clip from this radio show.
What's up, Fire and Wolf? She said her gym is inclusive, and she herself is queer. He got weird and left, but came back 3 times to intimidate her. Wait, who is this?
Just to showcase to you how she brings it up.
When you were asked about the motive of the trans lobby, you said at the extreme end, it's very dangerous people who want access to children and an entire dismantling of society. Do you think that is not catastrophic?
Yeah, what's up with that, Mike, right? Okay, first of all, Posey Parker's got a much nicer mic than mine. I can tell that hers is an XLR. But I feel like is she using Matt Walsh's mic or something, right? It's got a weird, is it a bass compression, or she's got a 3-band compressor on there or something? A bigot that came into the gym, my friend works at, maybe I didn't see the first thing that you posted. I apologize if, YouTube does seem to be not showing me all of chat. That's annoying.
Do you not know about the billionaires who are the billionaire men who are pushing this ideology and funding it? Are you not aware of those people?
No, tell me more.
Are you saying that doesn't happen?
Tell me more.
No, tell me more.
Tell me. Oh wait, no, that's not okay. That's not. That's the radio host. All right, that makes sense. That's. I don't know if it's a radio host or a podcast host or who this is, but like, yeah, so Posey Parker's like, do you not know about the billionaires? Yeah, no, tell me about the billionaires, Posey. Tell me about the billionaires.
You just need to. No, women across New Zealand, they are very, very aware that there are men in women's spaces, men in women's sports, and they are giving carte blanche access to, unfettered access to women's spaces as soon as you say that those men are part of the transgender ideology. As soon as a man basically puts on a dress, he is given unfettered access to women's spaces, including prisons, including rape crimes.
She was just like asking, like, you know, she was just asking like dads to come into like women's bathrooms with guns and stuff and like start, you know, like, are you transgender? Are you transgender? Which one? Like, this is like, it's weird. And I mean, we've already heard about how this is blown up in TERFs' faces, right? When they do the bathroom police thing, they end up catching their own. They end up misidentifying, you know, like sometimes, you know, gender critical women as being trans and like, you know, holding them up, making them prove that their genitals are a certain way. Yeah, I am speaking on behalf of all women. I swear. That's right. All women think this way.
I just think it's absolutely preposterous if you don't think women across New Zealand are afraid of that.
Could you please tell me a little more about the billionaires funding the transgender lobby?
Well, yes, you've got Big Pharma, for example. They make a substantial amount of money out of transgenderism. I want to know why it's not important to a journalist.
Big Pharma makes money out of like lack of regulation, lack of price controls on so much of a greater order than the tiny percentage of people that are trans and that are, you know, that there's not like, there's not really as much money as she seems to think in trans healthcare.
To address the fact that there are men in women's
and also,
spaces.
that's like the weirdest thing in the world. Like, you could just be like, you know, find some, like, be like, you know what? I don't think that heart disease is real. Because look at how much money they're making treating. I don't think that cancer is real. It's all the pharmaceutical complex, right? Like, I mean, you've heard people do this with like depression and stuff, right? Andrew Tate literally will tell you that depression is not real, right? And that like throw your meds away, right? Like, I don't know. You could challenge any like medication by saying that like there's a buck to be made in it. Yeah, as long as we have a non-public medical system, there is going to be a buck made on it. That's a problem of capitalism. That's not a problem of trans people.
It's really important as a journalist for me to know more about the billionaires funding the transgender lobby. And since you raised it, I'm interested to know further details. What can you tell me?
Oh my God, Varnwolf, that is a terrible story. Like, right, I as somebody who's worked in fitness extensively, right? And maybe working in, who knows? Like, let's hope that you know, I can keep this career going and not you know, become a personal trainer once again. But like, right, God, I mean, it's been difficult, but I've never had to deal with being confronted with like a transphobe that is like, why are you in women's spaces? Now, I have had an impact, like, right, a career that I could have had. I'm pretty good at kickboxing, as some of you may know, and probably could have done it competitively. I never got a chance to do that, though, because I know, like, how this works. I know the kind of scrutiny, the kind of heat that people like Alana McLaughlin and Fallon Fox are put under, and I just never wanted that smoke for myself, right? So it's definitely impacted me, but, you know, what you're talking about, like that kind of gym harassment sounds horrible. I've always worried about it, but I've never actually had it, you know, happen to me. So I can only imagine like what it's like to have, you know, what you think as a, you know, locker room is a relatively, you know, safe place to be, all of a sudden, you know, be, you know, a place where you're put into danger. Every time TERFs and transphobes try to target trans people, they end up targeting GNC cis people. Yeah, well, I mean, that is a phenomenon. That is definitely going on. I'm cis. I do not care who is in the bathroom. I will fight any transphobe.
I would like to know why, as a journalist, you are prepared to be distracted by that, as opposed to.
But you mentioned it.
Say a man. I haven't finished, and I'm sure you don't think interrupting is appropriate consistently when you've invited me on your show.
No,
so
go for it.
Say that women across New Zealand are very aware of the large-scale size of a man in comparison to a woman when they're playing games like, I don't know, rugby. Isn't that your national sport?
Now, clearly you can see in that clip that Posey Parker brings up the accusation about there being billionaires funding the transgender movement, but when the reporter pushes her on that to explain herself, Posey doesn't. She says, no, I'm not going to explain that, because she doesn't have any evidence of it. She's just doing it to push this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that just feeds all of these fascistic narratives, which goes to show, again, the connection between neo-Nazis and TERFs and anti-trans movements. So, so this is the woman that J.K. Rowling is going to bat for. The woman who also said this.
Any smears to stop us being able to speak. Why do you stand with Nazis, though? Why don't you go away? Who did? No. I'm not a feminist.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling, who is trying to prop herself up as this great feminist, is going to bat for a woman who's very clearly said she's not a feminist. And again, attacked trans people, attacked queer people, called for violence against transgender people, and promoted anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. You know, I've already done a bunch of videos on J.K. Rowling, done a bunch of videos on Posey Parker, but it's worth documenting these moments because it's like, you can see how J.K. Rowling is getting more and more explicit in her public support of these groups and people who are quite literally having connections with neo-Nazis and park groups. And as much as she likes to deny it, while there may not be any explicit, like, direct connections, there may be proof even further if someone drills down of there being explicit discussions between Posey Parker and neo-Nazi groups. But even if there weren't, they are saying the same things. They are dog-whistling the same things and trying to push the same ideas into mainstream spaces. So whether or not there is an explicit connection, and there very well might be, I would not be surprised at all. But even if there is not, that's how these far-right groups work. They work by saying, "Oh,
they don't ask questions, right? You know, they get support. She wasn't saying, hey, men, specifically non-fascist, non-reactionary men only, right? She was saying the people that she was asking to bring guns into the bathroom, like, are inevitably going to be, like, more. There's going to be more far right extremists represented. In fact, it's going to be all far right extremists. So yeah, she's going to get some Nazis.
Have any connections to each other, so they can have plausible deniability, but ultimately push the same horrific, ghoulish stuff.
No, I mean, she is
transgender people first being the most explicit people being attacked, with trans women being viewed as villains and you know, assaulters and rapists and all that stuff, and trans men being confused women who need to be protected for their fertility. It's just constantly using this to push these darker ends, and J.K. Rowling is continuing to defend it and continuing to fall down that and can get more public and vocal about it. And we need to continue to call it out.
Okay, right, so that is the stream for today. Now, I want you to notice that I've put the time. Let me get this Matt Walsh baby out of the way. This baby is bothering me. There we go. Okay, so right there, Twitch stream, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. That is in about an hour from now. I will be going over and doing a Twitch stream, because I know that there's people who have paid for a Twitch sub, and if I just withdraw from Twitch, like, that feels bad, right? There's people that have paid to have a sub on Twitch. They need to have a stream on Twitch. And even though, like, I did my main stream today on YouTube, I'm going to try to do tonight's stream on Twitch. I've got to come up with a schedule of some time That's what it's going to kind of look like, though, like going forward, is either doing like a stream directly after, either moving the stream to the other location directly after or something. But I got to figure something out. It's a lot of work for me. Twitch really threw me a curveball today, but once again, I appreciate everybody who supports me, whether that support is just hitting that like button on the YouTube video to make sure that this video gets out to more people that need to see it, or whether that means supporting me monetarily through Patreon, through YouTube membership, through donations, super chat, all the rest. I appreciate it so much, and I will see those of you who are willing to stay up a little late tonight for a late night stream. I'm gonna do one for you on Twitch. It's gonna be a little bit wild. We're gonna watch a Jubilee panel, and it's gonna be messy, right? Maybe play a little bit of video game, a little bit of Minecraft or something at the same time, and just figure out like what the heck am I gonna do? Because like I'm trying not to react with fear, with panic. I don't want to make you upset. I don't want to give you an emotional burden to carry on my behalf. I appreciate the fact that chat is there for me. I appreciate the fact that you support me, and I'm strong, and I've faced, a lot of adversity. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know what that means, right? Especially over on Twitch, right? If the hate raiders could not push me off the platform, then Twitch's ridiculous policies aren't going to push me off either. So anyway, everybody, thank you for coming here. Thank you for supporting me, and I will see you in about an hour. What is it, like an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 13 minutes or so over on Twitch. Wait, what am I supposed to say? Oh yeah, I'm gonna revive this. Okay? Moe Kyun. Yes, you gotta Moe Kyun that shit. Much love, everybody. I will see you on Twitch in about an hour.